Good morning. Good morning. Sorry, I needed just a moment longer there to get going. It's one of those days, right? A lot on the schedule today. Golden Mom 513. Hey. Never has such a large thing been purchased with such a small word. But Golden Mom, you successfully just outbid everyone else for the internet this morning. Your hay came in as the top bidder on chat, and you're now the proud owner of all things web related. Congratulations. We'll ship it out to you just as soon as we can. Let's see. We've got a bunch of people here today. The trial's already started, by the way. The judge got up early. I'm keeping an eye on this right now. They're still arguing some motions before the jury's in, and it's a big motion. We'll get to that here in a minute too. Abby's here as well. Abby, welcome. Lindsay, Miss Chris, Darth Holler, 7. Oh, we've got everybody. Bernard, Shauna, Toxic, Lori, Chandra, 2 cents. Set my alarm, Scott. Good morning. Hey, you know, if the notifications don't work, alarm's the next best thing. Tony's here. Carly, man, we've got everybody. We've got everybody. It's good. Well, everyone's filing in, I should say. We expect everyone to be here. Good morning, Scott, and everyone. Hi from Australia, from Lindy. Yep, I got a message from Turkey this morning. A retired Air Force individual. I don't know if it was a man or a woman, so I don't know what to say there. Said, hey, just found your channel. I'm in Turkey. Keep it up. Love it. So wonderful. Nico. Hey, that was it. Hello from Turkey. Yeah, I got your message on the other social media platform. I think that was you. So good to have you here. You deal with any mean doggies when you work? Oh, that's to 7. Okay. Sorry. I'll stay out of your conversation there. Sorry about that. Female from Air Force. Okay. Got it. Wonderful. I probably should have checked the profile picture. That would have told me. But Nico, good to have you here. Let us know how Turkey is. I've never been there. Florida is blowing in the wind. You guys be careful. That storm is coming. I don't think it's going to be super windy, but just all that rain on all the homes that still need repairs. That's going to be bad. Not a good situation. Multitasking, painting, and listening to you. Hey, Paula, at least somebody's getting something done, right? I'm just sitting here just enjoying life. But glad you're getting some work done. We're about ready to pop over to the case of the day, which is Matthew Terry. Down in Florida, he's accused of murdering his girlfriend. The amazing things in this case is that he got out of jail like 5 months before he did this, and he was in jail for stabbing his previous girlfriend. So the plants blew over. That happens. Yeah. So he's basically a repeat stabber of girlfriends. This one unfortunately died. His first one lived. And it's been bizarre. It's been bizarre. Let's see. I don't see anyone mentioning the elephant in the room here. Let's see. I crochet and kit myself, and it myself will agree. Yarns from Turkey are simply divine. Oh, Turkish yarn. It's like Turkish delight. Is that the same thing? I've never seen that emoji before. What is this emoji? Can somebody tell me? It's like a heart, a smiley face heart, baby Wi-Fi. Is that it? I don't know what that is, Abby. You're gonna have to explain that one to me. I drink coffee and paint. That's good enough. Watched some Terry videos last night. Good. You got your homework done. This will be a pretty gruesome warning. Hopefully they're not going to show the same level of imagery that other ones will. What are you talking about, Last Poet? What is this in regards to? It's a group hug. There's two of me. There's two of me. There's two of me. I'm going to make it so there's two more. There we go. Okay, now there's just one of me. The Last Poet, I was just giving you a hard time. I was going to play a joke today. I really was going to play a joke and not mention Dean Cummings at all. A few of us last night had a little bonus live stream, which was not expected, but we got word after I had settled in for a little bit of dinner and ready to go to bed that the verdict was in. That the jurors did not want to go home early and vote. They wanted to stay and do their job, and they did. They stayed and did their job, but we do have the verdict. We're going to play that for you here in just a second. Let me, because it's short, and it caught everybody off guard here as it came through. Let's see. Let me make sure I'm on the right screen here. Okay. Nope, that was the wrong screen. Cancel. Okay, so let's play this guy. The judge was just handed the verdict from the court. This happened last night. It's 2 pages, which is what we were expecting because there are 2 charges.
Mr. Cummings, please rise. The verdict read as follows. We find the defendant, Dean Cummings, not guilty of second-degree murder. Is charged in count 1 of the grand jury indictment. Verdict number 2. We find the defendant, Dean Cummings, not guilty of voluntary manslaughter, a lesser crime of count 1 of the grand jury indictment.
That was it.
And Mr. Cummings, you've been found not guilty of these charges. You're exonerated of all conditions of the court. What I want to do right now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is I need for you to follow. So
that was it. That was the whole thing. The judge basically said, "So, jury, you go out this way. We're going to have the bailiffs talk to you a little bit. Mr. Cummings, I'm going to get the paperwork for the jail so they can release all your stuff and let you out, but you're a free man." There was no apology for the last 2.5 years. There was none of that. It was just like short and sweet. Not guilty, done. So that's where we are. Now we're heading up. We've got something else to pick up with. So Dean Cummings is a free man. I think he slept in his own bed last night for the first time in a long time. So now let me bring this up. We're going to have audio just burst into our ears because we're popping in mid-argument.
The premise of the right to remain silent is rooted in the Fifth Amendment.
I'm going to turn this down just a tiny bit.
The Fifth Amendment is a protection.
Okay, so the lawyers this morning, this is out of the Matthew Terry case out of Florida. The lawyers this morning are debating, some conflicting cases that established precedent that have to do with whether or not you can admit prior acts. Specifically in Matthew Terry's case, prior stabbings into court. And we did get this morning a little more information that we didn't have before. We know that the prosecution came with the opening statement and said, "Here's what we're going to prove: that he killed his girlfriend. She was trying to get away, and he stabbed her." But to this morning is the first we didn't hear. Don't think we heard any opening statements from the defense. But this morning, the defense basically said, "Our defense is not guilty, and we're not going to do anything. We might even stay silent." Basically saying the state has not proved this, and so we're just going to leave it at that. So their defense might be to not have any statements other than they didn't prove it. They can't prove it was him. There's no weapon. They didn't find a weapon. They can't say it was him. No one has been able to exclude the fact that somebody else may have been involved. They can't prove that the damage inside the house was caused by him. The only evidence they have is that half an hour before she was murdered, before her body was found, she texted a friend and said everything was fine now about the fight that they had that night. That's all they've got. So that's just a window into what we're going to see in the case here today. But they're also talking a little bit about the right to remain silent. So we're gonna listen a little bit. It's a lot of legal speak back and forth. The jury is not in the courtroom right here, but we're gonna try to sort of get up to speed with each other this morning, how everything's going with everyone's day, while we also sort of catch up on this Matthew Terry case. Because if the judge rules that prior acts can be admitted, this gentleman just may be facing the death penalty pretty soon.
He has the right to remain silent. I hear, and I brought up the distinction yesterday as to who was asking the question and whether it constituted an interrogation. But law enforcement was you've admitted, and you're not going to dispute, law enforcement was in the vicinity, I think is your words.
Yes, Your Honor. I mean, I don't know what that means in terms of 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet. I have no answer to that.
But close enough for you to elicit, or Mr. Dirks to elicit testimony from them that he could, in fact, communicate because they were within earshot of that.
Yes, I agree.
So I mean, we can't, as far as we can go, move, but we stay within the circle of coherence.
I can tell you that Detective Vertu is standing in the room. He makes the notation that the defendant does not answer the doctor. So Detective Vertu has not yet testified. I'm sure he's going to say he's very close by, because the next thing that he does is he does try to actually ask the defendant if he wants to.
Well, the other side of that is close enough to hear if he did answer the doctor.
I got it. I'm not disputing that, Your Honor. They're clearly within some distance at which sight and hearing are certainly capable of detecting what is happening in the conversation with the doctor.
All right. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
I don't need anything.
See if he's going to rule on this here.
As I said before, I stayed up all night reading cases. Not only the cases that you submitted, but horn books on criminal law.
We did too, Your Honor.
Related to Williams' rule, and also related to right to remain silent in cases. I had a case in my hand where there was an ambulance, and I'm not going to go into the details. You know, that's one of the benefits of being a judge. I don't have to cite, when I make my ruling, I don't have to cite authority for it. I just have to be comfortable enough that I believe that my decision is the right decision, because if it's not, as I said before, it's likely to be reviewed by a higher authority, and I'm sure that they will let me know if and when I'm wrong. So I did a lot of homework to make sure that I feel like my decision is right. And Mr. Diaz, on the issue of the doctor being able to testify regarding whether Mr. Terry remained silent when she asked him what happened, my decision is I'm not going to allow that. Just not going to do it.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. As to Williams,
I am not an attorney.
Williams rule evidence is never a thing that
I'm a law
the
junkie.
defense is happy about, because it's evidence of some other bad act coming in during a trial where a defendant is facing a jury to determine whether they did this bad act. So it certainly is not something that the defense is going to lay down and take quietly. Miss Perry, you have done an excellent job on Mr. Terry's part fighting the Williams rule.
She was very good at this.
And have cited a number of cases, all of which I have reviewed thoroughly, in addition to other authorities that I have reviewed, like Earhart.
She was so thorough. She basically told the judge,
at the end of the day,
if you decide against this, it will be overturned on appeal.
That this is, and you've given a list of dissimilarities, but I believe if you go back to any of those cases, you could list dissimilarities. The shirt was a different color. There was 2 lamps in the room instead of 1 lamp. But there are glaring similarities in this case. I won't go into, as I said before, I don't have to support my decision. I just have to be comfortable with my decision. And at the end of the day, I believe that, what makes it difficult is there's no bright line. There's cases all over the board when you read them. They're hard to a bright line on this. It's a moving target. So I could be wrong, but I think I'm right when I have determined that I believe this is classic Williams rule, and I'm going to allow it.
Okay,
now,
prior acts are in.
I do have
prior acts are in.
Another question that I want to do on that, because it cannot become a, the premise or the, of the feature of the trial. And I have some concerns about the need for two witnesses, the detective. Why is the detective necessary in addition to the victim?
And Judge, I'm sorry, but you've only addressed striking similarity. What about the requirement?
She's still fighting.
Balzort and Abels both make it clear that for the exact reason they're offering Williams rule, uniqueness is required. There's nothing unique about a stabbing. There's no identifiable marks. There's nothing that was done that is any different than any other stabbing in either case, in Rogers' case or in Ms. Baker's case, and the stabbings themselves are completely
If she
different.
loses
You've got
this
7
point,
for
I think
Rogers
they
and
lose
only 1 for Baker.
their case.
How is there anything unique about the manner in which they were stabbed such that it would be a fingerprint as required by the case law that would point only to Mr. Terry? How does the circumstances here show anything unique that means he's the only one who could have done
Ms.
this?
Perry, right or wrong, I've ruled.
It's done. She
I would ask the court in their
to
ruling
reconsider.
to give the premise or the purpose for the uniqueness as required
Can you
by the
provide a
law.
written ruling? Is that lawful law?
I've ruled. Mr. Diaz.
Yes, Your Honor.
They're
I don't
in
want it to be
trouble
a
now.
feature of the trial.
I understand that. I understand.
Why do we need the detective and not just the
Well,
victim?
the detective is the one who authenticates the crime scene photos that display the
So-
blood path that exit out of the home, down the driveway. He's the one that authenticates the photo that's recovered and the photo of the knife block in the kitchen. Those are the details that obviously, I concede that.
Well, it's not. It's not for me to determine. I mean, I have a concern.
So he's
about it
ruled.
becoming a
He's
feature of
going to
the
say
trial.
I'm going to allow it, but I don't want too much of it. You can't pile on with all this prior acts evidence. You can bring it in for what it's needed.
Mr. Kane.
Yes, in terms of the feature aspect, we would just draw the court's attention to the fact that this witness is also the PDF witness.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's what?
This witness is also the PDF witness, the
Right.
prior violent felony witness. So, in that sense, we don't know if the state intends on calling
PVF,
Ms. Rogers
prior
sentencing.
violent felony.
But in the event that they do intend to do that, that adds to the feature element and compounds the effect of the testimony to the point where the jury may be focusing solely on Ms. Rogers in either reaching a verdict for guilt or in determining its
They're just doing damage control
I
right now.
don't disagree with it.
They're trying to
It's a
minimize it.
complicated issue. I will certainly give you that. And again, one that, depending on how this trial goes, may ultimately be reviewed by a higher authority. And I've put Mr. Diaz on notice about that issue that I do have some concern about.
Yes, Your Honor. I understand your ruling.
All right. So, you got witnesses?
We do. I just want to clarify something. There are no new photos. I still have all the photos I've shown the defense that they have already seen. I realized that when I created my exhibit list, despite trying to measure twice and cut once, one of the packets is
Said
not
measure
listed, so I've
trice.
created it as packet 66.
Is that not? It's not on the list.
It's not on the list, so I'm just telling everyone now, when you're looking later, where's 66? I'm giving everyone the advance notice right now.
Okay,
These are not-
I'll just add it on mine. Is that an issue for the defense at all? And what would you?
These
have
are all the
titled it?
photos of basically a long Lithia pine crest and then going into the woods of the blood.
Photos of blood trail.
Basically, yes. But it's the blood trail along Lithia, not the one through the backyard. Because I didn't put it, it's not typed on my exhibit.
Are there multiple blood trails?
66. It will be 66. 66, A through,
These are the ones you showed us, you just didn't number.
well, I didn't put it on the exhibit list.
Okay.
So it's A through double R.
Is that going to be admitted through one of our first witnesses?
Not one of the first ones, no.
Because it's 9:20, and I'm sure is all the jury here.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to get them in, Mr. Dirks.
Yeah, I expect that to be offered with crime scene investigator Durr, who's probably going to be, if everything goes right before lunch, so it'll be after the break.
All right, so we'll have a break. So, defense, you have an opportunity to take a look at that and let me know if you have any issues with it. We'll discuss that during the break. Is the state ready for the first witness?
State's ready, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready for the first witness?
We have a couple minutes. There's one other issue that we want to discuss.
Okay, while they're discussing that, let me just show you. We've had some mention of a box set for defense attorneys to purchase. It's for building a fort, which works phenomenally well. She needs to buy the True Crime box set. This is the True Crime box set that is available now, all for the low price of $199.99. I think it's 6 monthly payments of $199.99 plus shipping. The courtesy of Stephen Lee, he's got our box set, free pickle included. Let me get this off the screen so you can see the whole thing. The official box fort kit right there with pickle. So thank you, Stephen Lee, for providing it for us. We'll jump back to the courtroom here as they're bringing the jury in. Defendant's looking sharp as he has the entire time, but now he's in a white suit. It's sort of like the white hat, black hat from the old cowboy movies. You always knew the good guy by the color of hat he wore. Well, he's in the white suit now, so he's got the good guy image going. But I'm not sure if that's going to hold up once the jury gets to hear that he stabbed a previous girlfriend 7 times. So is it a limited edition? We do have limited supply. We only bought like 1 container cargo ship full of them, so we imagine they'll go fast. But it is awesome. Stephen Lee, thank you so much. I appreciate the what you add to the program through your artwork. It's awesome. And the price, I think, was spot on, really. I mean, we're basically selling at cost, at that. Those bankers boxes are not cheap. And the pickle, you've got to consider the pickle as well. It must be a wonderful morning for Dean. Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine? You know what he didn't do? He did not turn around. And I know there was an outburst in the courtroom. There was somebody crying in the courtroom. But it seemed like from the way the lawyers looked back, they sort of looked back towards the prosecution side. And generally people sort of like sit on sides in a courtroom. You like, I'm with this guy, I'm with that guy. It may have been somebody on the family side of the decedent that was crying. I'm not sure if it was his family that was in the courtroom, although they were brought up that he has 3 children. I'm not sure if they were there. Let's see. Stephen Lee says, "You're welcome. I love this channel, your commentary, and all these people. The people make it amazing. I just try to fill in some of the gaps with my mumbling." Shipping to the UK, yeah, $199. I think we can cover shipping costs for that price. Put me down for 1, then hand delivered, please. Keep the pickle fresh, please. In Scotland, hey, as long as I get to stay and see a couple of the sites, I think we'll have to arrange that. So Shane O'Neill, he's giving some background on this trial for those that don't know. He had an argument with his girlfriend over dinner, and you can go back and watch the video, the security video from the restaurant or the bar he was at. The girlfriend goes to the bathroom, and she comes back like one of her female friends is coming the other way, and they sort of do this little dancey sort of thing as they're walking towards each other talking. And behind the girlfriend is another guy who's like photobombing the encounter, and so he starts mimicking it as well and walks by. It was that quick. That's what set him off. That's what started the fight that the prosecution is saying led to him killing her. So yeah, very, very short fuse. But take the monthly payment plan, 6 months, and it could be yours. Yeah, this is actually something that is available. The mugs, I saw we were shipping one. I forgot where the last one went, which country it was. But it's awesome to see people all over the world buying these little mugs and supporting the channel a little bit that way. So thank you very much. Being the mailman, 7 says go ahead. He'll cover postage, or you'll just deliver them. I'll pay the postage you delivered. Is that how it works? Dallas, you're correct. This is the death penalty. Originally, the state had said no. I'm not sure why we don't have any audio on this. Why is it? Oh, they've turned off the audio for some reason. Not sure. But originally, the state said they were not going for the death penalty. Then the state, the chief prosecutor was replaced, and the new one said we're going for the death penalty. So that's where we are. So death penalty is definitely on the table, and the jury would be the ones that decide it. If they go with the guilty, then they get to come back for the sentencing and decide death penalty as well. I will say that the one thing that surprises me about this courtroom, we've got great camera angles and everything. It looks like a really well-established court, but I can't figure out why the judge and that clerk have to share a chair. You'd think they would have one for herself, but she seems to almost be in his lap.
Present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning and welcome back. Happy Wednesday. As you may know, we are starting a little bit late. I again take full responsibility for any delays. Please do not hold that against the attorneys, the parties, or anyone else.
How could you not be happy?
I'm the captain of the ship, and if it leaves late, I'm responsible. So, the first question that I have of you is whether any of you were exposed to any reports about this case from the time you left the courtroom yesterday and the time that you returned, by show of hands. Let the record reflect there are no hands. Did any of you discuss this case, either amongst yourselves or with anyone else between the time that you left yesterday and the time that you came back into the courtroom now? Let the record reflect there are no hands. Again, thank you all very much. On Nicole. I have no updates.
Nicole's the storm.
Tropical storm or potential hurricane. I have no updates at this time. I am monitoring, and they have advised us, the chief judge has, that they will let us know when, if any, decisions are made regarding the courthouse tomorrow. But as of right now, I don't have anything. Depending on what happens, and including if the schools are closed but the courthouse is not, I will then have additional conversations with you about any inconveniences or conflicts that you may have. So just wanted to let you know, because I told you yesterday I'd follow up, and as of right now I know nothing more than I knew yesterday. So we are now going to pick up where we left off. I'll turn to the state and ask them to please call their next witness.
You can imagine him saying, "Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance."
Dr. Perkins.
So the defense was basically going to stay silent. That's what it sounds like their defense is. Not offer a defense at all and just rest their case on the fact that the state hasn't proven that it was him. I'm going to try to be a little better with the audio. They're sending a pretty hot feed to me, so I'm trying to tone it down a little bit so it doesn't blow out our ears this time.
Dr. Perkins, good morning and welcome. If you'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Doctor, if you'll follow the bailiff to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step.
That clerk is like seated right next to the judge. That would never fly in New Mexico. They'd have to have like 12 feet space between everyone.
You're ready, and then I'll let the attorneys ask you some questions.
Can we get some WD-40 for that chair? It's a little squeaky.
Good morning, Mike.
All right, Mr. Dirks, you may proceed.
That's
Thank
awesome,
you, Your Honor.
Matthew. Welcome. Glad to have you here today.
Good morning, Doctor. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Dr. Ashley Perkins. I am an associate medical examiner with the Hillsborough County Medical Examiner's Office.
That's the county where this took place in.
All right,
Hillsborough.
as an associate medical examiner, as a forensic pathologist, can you give us the benefit of your training, education, or other experience which qualifies you for your position?
Sure. In 2007, I received a Bachelor's of Science in Biology from the University of Missouri. 2009, I received a Master's in Biomedical Science from Midwestern University. In 2015, I received a Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine from the Arizona College of Osteopathic Medicine. From 2015 to 2019, I did a 4-year residency in anatomic and clinical pathology, and then I was board certified in both anatomic and clinical pathology in 2019. From 2019 to 2020, I did a forensic pathology fellowship with the University of South Florida and Hillsborough County, and I was board certified in forensic pathology in 2020.
These are all legit. No internet courses there. Stark differences to the New Mexico trial.
All right, then as an associate medical examiner with the Hillsborough County Medical Examiner's Office, how many autopsies have you performed?
Over 850.
And so you were in that capacity in May of this year, correct?
Yes.
I want to draw your attention to the early morning hours of May 28th, 2022. Were you asked to respond to the scene where a body was found on Kite Ridge Road?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Some trigger warnings,
Yes.
especially if they show photos.
And
I
did
don't
you go
think they
there?
will,
I did.
but
Tell us about what
this
time
is a
you
gruesome
arrived.
murder.
I arrived around 5:30 in the morning.
And when you arrived at 5:30, were there other officers of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office there as well?
Yes.
Did you have any discussion with them, get an idea of what you were going to be asked to do as it relates to the scene?
Yes, I was given a brief summary of the events.
And after you were given a brief summary of the events, what did you do?
I photographed the scene as is, which had already been sealed off by sheriff's officers, and I approached the body once I was given the go-ahead that they had collected the evidence that they needed. The body was already covered with a sheet. I photographed as is, and then I removed the sheet from the body and proceeded to do my external examination.
All right, I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification. Stacy.
If this gets really bad, we're gonna do our own little sidebar until they're done with the pictures, because I don't need to spread that on my channel. That's not what I like. We understand there are these elements in the case, but that's not what I want to focus on.
You may.
Can you show you some photographs which comprise State's Exhibit number 28, and I'll mark them A through...
Hey, 2 cents, you're forgiven. I don't know what you said, but apology accepted. Yeah, I'm hoping we have creative camera angles that keep that out of our view.
H. If you would take a look at those photographs and tell me if you can identify them.
What was the number? Mr. Kurtz?
I think he's got like 60 or 70, 66 photos in this packet. That's what he said pre-trial. I think those are the ones that she's authenticating. They're going to submit as evidence. They're photos of the crime scene. We can see just of her glancing through. There's blood.
Yes, these appear to be photographs from the scene.
From the scene that you just described?
Correct.
And they fairly accurately depict the scene, or portions of the scene as you found them.
Yes.
That packet doesn't have 60 in them. That's a smaller packet.
Would offer into evidence State Exhibit 28 A through H.
Other than previously discussed, any additional objections at this time?
Nothing additional.
They'll be admitted.
And Your Honor, I have permission to publish when necessary. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's talk. You mentioned to us that there was a sheet covering Kay Baker.
Yes.
You removed the sheet, eventually removed the sheet, and then was there another sheet replaced eventually?
I bring along a clean, brand new, never been opened evidence sheet. So once I do my external examination as is, then I roll her onto the clean evidence sheet.
All right, then let me show you. First, let me ask a couple questions. Did you notice any apparent injuries to Kay Baker?
Yes.
And from your external examination,
It's going to
at
get a
the
little
scene,
gruesome, even the description.
What could you tell? What could you determine from those injuries, at least generally speaking?
Generally speaking, she had several wounds to the neck that were fairly deep. I couldn't assess the depth at the time of examination. There was quite a bit of blood around the neck, but there were at least a few wounds on the neck.
All right, let me show you what has then been marked as 28A, and I'll publish that now. See if I can get that. My training from Mr. Diaz to get it.
So
Okay,
previously,
what are we looking at there on that
the defendant
photograph?
has shown remorse
So
or
we're looking at
emotion.
the left side of the neck, and there's a large injury here. It appears to be sharp force injury.
Okay.
he gets emotional when he sees these pictures. which might be part of his defense. If
28B.
it wasn't him, then it's still hard for him to look at.
Same question. What are we looking at here?
So we're still on the left side of her neck. And again, above this black object,
Loud truck going by outside.
am I allowed to stand up and...
You asked me to step
Sure.
out, and I believe that there is a yardstick somewhere in around there that you.
A yardstick. Give her a laser pointer.
If I may,
Sorry.
What are we? Are we in the 1950s?
if you'd like to use this, you can.
Maybe a broom handle? Can someone give her a broom handle?
So here we're seeing a smaller sharp force type injury.
All right, that's B.
Good question, Dallas. It may be contrived.
Next we have is C. If you would take a look at C and orient us if you can.
Alexis, you've got a low
Is
threshold
it better
there.
like this or like this? What would,
First way on it.
first way, like this?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're on her right side. This is her right ear, right side of her neck. Her collarbone is right here, and there's a sharp force injury in the center of the photo.
Thank you.
Snow in Utah. I tell you, it was 61 degrees downstairs
And here's
this
D,
morning.
28D. You would take a look at that.
I almost got a blanket this morning just to wrap up and stay warm. But all my
And
lights
this
and
is just
equipment
an
gets
as-is
warm.
photo before we've removed any clothing of her legs.
So, when you say as is, that's the first observation you made of her.
Yes.
28E.
Yeah, let's enjoy fall for a
We're
little bit
looking
longer.
at her feet as is before we've manipulated the body.
And here's 28F.
Golden Mom, maybe.
So I placed a clean evidence sheet on the ground, rolled the body, and
It
now we're looking
could
at
be a
that.
reporter live tweeting it. I'll see if I can find the feed. Hope, I'm in North Carolina. I'm on the East Coast.
28G.
This is a photograph after I rolled her onto the new evidence collection sheet, just to observe for any injuries.
And 28H.
And again, this is just an overall photograph of her legs and her feet.
Does anyone know
After she's
what his
been
job was? I haven't researched that. What was Matthew Terry's job,
All right.
profession-wise, when he wasn't murdering people?
All right. Do you recall whether, with the assistance of the sheriff's office, Kay Baker's hands were bagged?
Yes.
Yeah. And tell us why the hands were bagged and what's the purpose for that.
So we allow law enforcement to take any swabs at the scene to collect for any evidence. Once that occurs, the hands are placed in these paper collection bags to preserve any evidence during transport from the body from the scene to our office, where we'll continue to collect more evidence, do fingernail clippings, scrapings, things like that, to assess for DNA that may potentially be under the nails.
Matthew, they've been silent
All right.
so far.
Is there anything of
No opening
significance
statement.
that you can recall doing at the scene?
All they're saying is not guilty.
Just assessing for the potential injuries and taking photographs as is of the decedents, and other than that.
All right. Did you stray away from the immediate vicinity of the body to see any other evidence, or did you basically maintain your focus upon the body or within feet of the body?
Correct. I stay with the body and within feet of the body.
Did you notice any what appeared to be blood at the scene at or near the body?
I don't know who's
Yes.
breathing on the mic, but
Tell
I
us
just
about
checked.
that.
That wasn't me.
Of course, there was a large pool of blood underneath the body, where her body physically was, and I didn't measure it, but within a couple feet. The body was placed between two houses, and one of the houses on the sidewall did have what appeared to be blood.
Hey, Stephen, I'm actually going to prune down my moderators a little bit.
All right.
I want everyone to be able to chat without
Other than those,
coming across as like the
observations in that work that you did,
speaking for the
is there
channel
any
type thing.
significance that you
And
did
the mods are
see
sort of highlighted that way. So I was actually going to remove a few more people.
All right, let's then move on.
Not that anyone's done a bad job. I just wanted to have the chat be more fair and equal as far as that goes.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about preliminaries. Did before you actually performed the autopsy, was there any either evidence collection, photographing?
I sure hope you
anything
get
like
it before
that
Christmas, Abby.
done, before you began the actual autopsy process?
Yes, once the body arrives at the medical examiner's office, I'm present for when our autopsy technicians, who are the ones responsible for logging in the body, open the bag, and I watch them process the body. I don't physically process it myself, but they will collect hair, fingernail clippings, and I observe the process as it occurs.
And do you recall whether or not there may have been also a representative from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office there as well?
Yes.
And do you recall whether that officer may have also participated in the collection of or the acquisition of evidence relating to the body of Kay Baker?
Yes, they will swab the hands.
So the defendant was a former Marine. What was
Now,
that?
any of those items that were
Was he a Marine
that
until
were collected by
he
your
was
office,
in jail?
For example, were fingernail clippings obtained?
Yes.
And were any of those sort of exhibits or items eventually turned over to the sheriff's office?
Yes, once they're collected, they're sealed in evidence envelopes, photographed, and then given into police custody.
So he was out. The crazy
All right,
thing
you-
about this
you
trial
finished that
is
process,
this murder happened
what was the
this year.
next step?
A lot of times when you have especially like a death penalty case, you've got years between the actual crime and the trial, because the defendant wants as much time as possible to prepare and do everything. They waive their right to a speedy trial. He did not. And so we've got this murder that happened, in May? And here we are here in November, and it's in front of a jury. So it's very fast. It's a rush for the prosecution, too.
May have that may be present on the outside. I take measurements of the injuries that are present. I take dirty photographs before I manipulate anything on the body. I take clean photographs to give a better idea of what the injury looks like in totality. And then I proceed to an internal examination, which is the formal autopsy.
All right, the condition of Kay Baker was displayed in those photographs. Was her body then cleaned eventually as part of the process?
Yes.
So the photographs that we may see from the autopsy, those are after the cleaning process takes place, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show you some additional photographs, if I may, and ask you if you can identify them.
Somebody having a birthday today?
What's the number, Mr. Gary?
Do we all need to sing
I have
to Toxic? Toxic is your birthday?
59, 60, and 61. Thank you.
Well, I think if you're picking up the birthday cake, it's probably for somebody else. That's just my guess, as a member of the court of public opinion here. But happy birthday to whoever's birthday it is. Yeah, that's all anyone's been able to find so far, is that it's just a former Marine. Thank you, Miss Chris, MB, a couple other of you who jumped on that research for me. We know he was in jail, in prison, for the stabbing of this previous girlfriend 7 times. He got out, and 5 months later, he did this allegedly.
Back in just a moment.
And the jury's going to get to hear that. So we'll see what they think about that. Wayne says, if he's found guilty, can he use the excuse that his defense didn't have enough time to prepare for the trial and the appeal? I don't think so, because he has that right. He can exercise that right. So by
On
not
my first approach.
waiving the right to a speedy trial,
show you what has been marked
I mean,
by
he had
the
control over that.
State's Exhibit number 59A to W.
I guess he could try to appeal. I mean, the right to appeal, it is a right. Whether or not it will be granted, I think, is a very low chance. Oops. Keep trying to click on this message, and you guys are typing too fast. Little happy birthday. We're so glad you came. Happy birthday from the Addicts gang. I can almost hear the tune there, Lori. Ferry, we don't know. We've got, I think they've said they had, 7? They had 12 witnesses yesterday, and the 7 they want to put on the stand today. They think they'll be, burning through them pretty quick, even though some of them are expert witnesses that are a little more in-depth. I don't know if they have any after that, and we have heard nothing from the defense other than not guilty. So we're going to have an opening statement, I believe, just like Brooks did, where he reserved his right to give the opening statement later. That's my understanding of what's happening
You had an
here.
opportunity to look at those photographs,
Yes,
and do you recognize them?
I do.
And what are they?
Autopsy photos taken during my autopsy.
And of the autopsy of Kay Baker,
Correct.
was this autopsy assigned a number?
Yes.
Would you please tell us what that number is?
Yes. 22-04991.
I always like it when Matthew Harris confirms the thing I said instead of corrects me, and it looks like I guessed right again this morning.
Yes.
State offers exhibit number.
You're exactly right. Defendant would have to ask for a continuance to preserve error for appeal, and in granting continuance, the court asks if defendant is waiving speedy trial. Right. So then he wouldn't. He basically doesn't have the.
Thank you.
That wouldn't be an appeal that he could really win on.
I apologize. It is 59A through W. Thank you very much, Mr. Kane.
Next we have, while we're at this, number 60. I'm going to show you 60A through L.
Say that again, 60A through L.
Correct, Your Honor.
Definitely has like a military style haircut. I mean, I guess you could say mine is as well, but it's got that clean cut look. Maybe a tiny bit long. Gonna get a judge's wig? Like a England judge wig, like a court wig or something.
And doctor, have you looked at those photographs?
I have.
And do you recognize them?
I do. I do.
And are they accurate photographs of the autopsy
Yes.
of Kay Baker? Thank you. The state offers State's Exhibit 60A through L, Your Honor.
Any objection?
As previously noted.
All right, they'll be admitted 60A through L. Will be admitted this time.
Thank you. And then the last two photographs I'm going to ask you to look at, if I may, is exhibit number 61, A through B. Do you recognize A and B?
Yes.
And are those photographs from the autopsy of Kay Baker?
Yes.
Trying to make the chat appear just a tiny
State
bit bigger.
offers, 61A and B.
Other than previously discussed, any additional objections at this point?
Barrister wigs.
61A.
Can you guys read the chat? Is that
And may the state publish when appropriate and necessary.
You may vote.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, before I get into the
Moving
photographs, you
around with my
mentioned
finger
that
on
you
the
did
screen.
first an external examination.
Is that any better?
Another thing, to find out if there's anything in the external examination which may give you a clue other than the injuries that we've made mention of, which gives you a clue that there was some either disease or morbidity going on with Kay Baker other than those injuries.
Correct.
There were none?
I did not see any.
Okay. All right. 61A.
I think it was
Saw
just a few years ago, maybe as many as
some
5.
jeans on Kay Baker at the scene. Are those the same jeans?
Yes.
Yeah, he walked right up to the mic and caught me off guard.
61B. Same jeans as the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Ferry, I'm going to use your comment to see if it runs off the screen. Oh
And you
no!
earlier
I made it too big.
testified about
Made
the
it too
fact
big.
that the hands, Kay Baker's hands were bagged at the scene. as well. I want to show you some other photographs. 60A.
That's about as big as I can make it.
And do you recognize 60A?
Yes.
What is 60A?
It is the paper bags that were provided by law enforcement at the scene that were placed on the hands at the scene.
Okay. And does it indicate which hand this relates to?
Yes, this is the left hand.
Left hand, all right. And then I'm going to show you 60B.
MB, yeah, he looks a lot different from his
You
mugshot.
recognize 60B?
He's lost a lot of weight. Maybe they've got a good exercise program in jail, or maybe the food isn't so good. One of the two. But yeah, very different from the mugshot.
What is 60B?
So after the body has been processed, she's been fingerprinted at this point, hands have been cleaned up so that we can visualize the injuries, and now we are looking at photographs of the injuries on the left hand.
Red Gorilla, yes.
I'll ask you some more questions about those.
The judge this morning ruled that they can bring in those prior acts, the prior stabbing of girlfriend issue. And I think they'll have 2 witnesses testify to it. So we'll see exactly how
After
deep
you-
that goes. But yeah,
after
the jury's
you,
got to hear that.
Made your observations. Did you then begin the process of the autopsy of Kay Baker?
Yes.
Golden Mom, I think they're not going to show the photos. I think they're being good about that. So we might be
and
safe watching. I'll keep an eye out. I
In
don't
that
want to show
process,
anything
did you,
super gory on the channel.
Identify any injuries that you believe are related to your investigation?
Yes.
First of all, let me show you what has been marked for identification. The State's Exhibit number 59A. Do you recognize
This is
A?
very true, Charlie.
Yes, this is an intake photo of the decedent.
All right. In your autopsy report, you noted a series of injuries that you noted.
Yes.
Shane, we'll have to get a brush up on how the law works over there if we want to follow that.
Clarity, why don't we go through those
Different girlfriend, different attack.
one at a time? So that, and then you can describe what injuries, what their significance is, and other.
I saw that weather watch.
correspondence. So let's start
That's
with
really
one.
sad.
In your autopsy report, you
Yeah,
have
they were ones I
exhibit-
really
you
liked.
have Roman
Hopefully the
numeral
cause
one.
can
What is
continue
Roman
even
numeral
without
one?
Jared.
And I'm going to try to pull up a photograph which will assist you in your description.
So the autopsy report is divided in the injury section in would be sharp force injuries. That includes stab and incised wounds, stab wounds, being a wound type that's caused with something with a sharp edge to it that is deeper than it is wide. An incised wound is essentially a cut, so it's longer on the outside than it is deep. So the first section, incised wounds and stab wounds, Roman numeral 1 is a superficial incised wound to the face. These are all in order of, there's no implied chronology to these wounds and no implied significance in the order that they're placed in the autopsy report.
All right, so
Is this our drinking word of the
you're
day?
gonna
2 cents?
testify about
Singular?
multiple injuries,
The way the
but
judge says it?
you cannot say with any degree of medical certainty as to the order of those injuries when they occurred, the
Correct.
sequence. Just because we're going to go through them in 1 through 12 or 11 or 12 doesn't mean that was the first. Roman numerals 1 is the first, and Roman numeral 11 is the last.
Correct.
No order whatsoever.
Correct.
All right, the first Roman numeral 1 is that superficial injuries. Is that the injury indicated on 60A that I showed you earlier?
So these descriptions are going to get a little bit graphic because they go through
Yeah,
every
would you
single
point
injury
to
on
that,
her body.
please, or I can. Is it this one here?
Yes.
Does she have a laser? Did they say, do you point the laser?
lower right side of her face, what we call perioral region, they are centered about 7.5 inches below the top of her head and 1 3/4 inch right of her anterior midline. That's just to give some idea of trajectory. The wounds range from 2 to 3.3 centimeters in length, and they're oriented what we call obliquely, so in about a 2 to 9 o'clock position on her face.
All right.
He's
All right,
showing
that
emotion
was,
or trying.
Actually, that was 59A, I believe, 59A. Yes, as I show you 59B, does 59B
Thank you,
also
Tiffany. Your
depict
chat
that
is
scene
very
from a
soothing.
different angle.
Does that work?
Yes.
Here.
I like reading chat from you guys. 100%,
Are
Abby.
there any
I'm on board here.
characteristics
I can do with the
about,
audio description,
that
but the
wound
pictures
which
would be too much.
would indicate whether or not she was alive, the heart was pumping, which gives us any indication as to when those injuries might have occurred in relation to when Kay Baker died.
They're a little pale, so it's possible that it was what we call the perimortem state, so the heart's not pumping quite at the same level of what would be normal in life, so she could be potentially in the dying process when those occurred.
Okay.
The stories have to have small words for the
All
bedtime
right,
stories, ones I can pronounce.
Is there anything else of significance that you need to tell us about that particular injury before we go on to the next one?
No.
All right, let's go move on to the next one. I think it's your Roman numeral number 2.
Correct.
All right, let's go to that one.
So this is a large wound on the left side of the neck. Again, it's categorized as a sharp force wound because it showed features of both stab, again, deeper than it is wide type wound, and incised wound, so a large cut. So both features were noted in this injury on the left side of the neck. It went from the left post-auricular region, so right behind the left ear, and continued to the front side of the neck, going from left to right.
Stephen can relate.
There was also another wound.
Are you
so that
triggered
was
by
a
this
large
description
cut, and there was another
based
wound
on your
that commingled
experience?
blended with it, that looked more like a stab wound, that was oriented a little more up and down versus the wound that was going from the left side of the neck to the right side of the neck, looked more like a cut. So both of these commingled, and this one appeared about 2 centimeters in length, but it was hard to tell the exact measurement based on the fact that it commingled with the larger wound. These wounds extended through the skin, went deep into the muscles on the side of the neck on the left side. It also cut the external and internal jugular veins on the left side. It cut the left common carotid artery, which is the major artery in the neck. The jugular veins are the major veins in the neck. And it went through the larynx, which is the upper portion of your airway. It completely transected that. And then as it continued to the right, it went more superficial and cut the skin.
All right, you gave us a lot of information. First of all, I want to show you a photograph.
So the victim in this
Ask you
case was a
that-
third-grade math teacher. Are you
whether
saying
these
that
photographs actually depict
the defendant was also teaching math?
that injury that you just described?
Yes.
That is C. That
The
is
detectives are at work
59C.
here.
And how about 59D?
Possible director of event planning and operations at Marriott.
Yes.
All right, you told us a lot of things about that injury. You mentioned that there may be more than one actual wound.
Yeah, this is the
and,
description.
I guess
I think that stands out.
to us lay
Is
people,
it
it
was
looks
a
like
vicious attack
one-
that nearly
one
decapitated her.
wound. What caused you to think that it's possibly more than one wound?
Let me. So this wound is a large, essentially cut wound that's going from left to right. But this wound is oriented in a different fashion. So with the depth that it extended into the tissues, it appeared more like a stab wound, and then commingled with the cut wound.
And you mentioned that there were several parts of the neck that were involved in that wound. And I'd like you to, if you can, locate or describe those. And so I have 2 photographs here. Would this one work better to assist you, or would the other one, 59C, would that better assist you?
They found him hiding in the woods, covered in blood, stab wounds, possibly self-inflicted to his neck,
Okay.
in his underwear. and a blood trail leading from
focus in on
her
a
body
little
to
bit
him,
more.
basically. So, pretty convincing circumstantial evidence.
If there are any of those tissues that you described, if you can point to them and tell us a little bit about the structure of the neck so that we can have a better idea of what was involved.
Sure. So running approximately here on the photograph, that would be where her major veins are running. The jugular vein, the inguinal jugular vein, the external jugular vein runs a little bit more anterior. The common carotid artery is running with the internal jugular vein. And they're both about this area. You can't see them in this photograph. They've been transected and they're very elastic, so they separate very easily and they retract. So we can't see it in this photograph, but you can see the number of muscles that have been transected, including the sternocleidomastoid, which is that big muscle on the front of the neck. It goes from your,
These are gruesome photos for anyone to look at.
to the top of the neck.
Just from the description.
So that all of us are clear as to your terminology. Transected, what does that mean?
That means completely cut through.
Yeah, it's completely cut. It's gross. Oh man. Patty says, I saw a report Kay Baker knew or dated him or knew him from Michigan. Wonder if she knew about his prior conviction. His prior conviction, I believe, was in Michigan. I believe that's where he served time for the first stabbing. Not sure if she was aware of his conviction or not.
While we're on that wound, I'm going to show you another photograph to see if that can in any way further assist you in your description. This is Exhibit 59E, if you would look at 59E.
I was reading through the documents. I think we have lost a couple jurors already. I'm not sure why. I'll see if I can find out why on this case, but some have been excused.
More can we see the larynx in this case? We can see the depth of the injury. We can see the soft tissues, the muscles, the fatty tissue that covers the neck and is right underneath the skin are exposed in this case.
I don't know if they found clothes or not.
All right.
It may have been committed in his underwear.
And as
Don't
you
know.
look at that photograph that I showed you before, is there any indication of injury or damage below the chest?
The police and the dogs found
or
him
is that free of injury?
hiding in a bush, laying on his back.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Have we sufficiently described what is your Roman numeral 2, that wound?
Yes.
Okay. What is next?
There is an incised wound to the anterior portion of the neck. Actually, that photograph had it.
The one right here? This one here?
If you're going to go down, yes. So let me
Here?
point to one of them. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is an incised wound to the neck, and like a stab type wound, and then the neck had a superficial incised wound. This didn't appear to have much in the with depth or do much damage other than staying superficial or on the top of the skin.
Okay, and again,
Hey, Stephen,
I wanna
that's
ask the
awesome.
Same question regarding
Appreciate
that
your
wound
artwork
as I
for
asked
sure.
Regarding the other wound, is there any indication as to whether or not Kay Baker's heart was pumping, whether there was any vital?
I haven't heard. I haven't watched all the
reaction
pre-trial
to
stuff
body
to see what evidence was brought in,
reaction to
but I don't remember there
in
being any pants
This
as
wound,
evidence.
it is mildly pale, so this could be perimortem. The previous wounds, yes, she did have what we call vital reaction, so the heart was pumping during that injury.
All right, then as it relates to that previous wound, the large wound or wounds that we were talking about, what can you tell us about that as it relates to your opinions in this sequence of events in the observation scene?
Again, I can't say what came in what order, but I do know that her heart was pumping. She was alive when she received the large wound that we described in Roman numeral 2.
You mentioned that her larynx was transected?
Yes.
All right. Now, at that point, since it's the larynx or the voice box, could Kay Baker talk? Could she talk at that point?
At that point, once the larynx was transected, then she would not be able to make much noise. No.
The white balance is on point on this. They're using what's called pan-tilt zoom cameras, which are remotely
All right,
operated by a
then
joystick and controller.
Is there anything else about that?
A lot like you'd play a
Roman
video
numeral
game.
3 that we need to discuss, or should we move on?
If
No, we can move on.
if you pay
Okay, let's
attention,
move on to
sometimes on the different angles,
four
you'll
was
see one of the
also in
cameras.
that
They can really
photo.
turn
Oh, okay.
360 degrees and zoom in and tilt up and down. They're pretty versatile cameras, really nice.
So they, number 3 and number 4 were kind of on top of each other. So let me point to delineate a little bit.
See if I can.
Clarity.
Yeah, it was a vicious attack, for sure. And his defense basically is that you can't prove it was me.
The anterior portion of the neck.
That's the closest I can see is what they're going
Again,
for.
This is slightly to the left of her midline. This wound penetrated through the skin. The anterior surfaces of the left side of the neck is also hit that sternocleidomastoid, so again, that big muscle that goes up from the back of the
I
ear.
appreciate you making
Your
this distinction,
clavicle, your
Stephen.
collarbone hits some of the muscles that lie deeper to that, and superficially penetrated to the anterior body of cervical vertebra 7, so the spinal column.
And what sort of damage or injury did occur to that at C7?
So it penetrated to the
Well,
point
she's
that it was
describing
on the
these
outside of the
injuries,
spinal column.
which
It
are bad.
was,
Churchy brings up that there is some
chapter
interior damage in the house that has been brought up as evidence. The bathroom door had damage consistent with trying to be kicked in, and the bedroom door was locked from the inside. The window was open. The screen pushed out, and she was found in the front yard. Which paints a picture of how it happened, basically, or how she was trying to get away from him. The defense has already said in the arguments to the judge this morning, basically, that there's been no evidence that was submitted that proves that he did that, or that it wasn't from a long time ago, or something like that. So I think they're going to try to win on the fact that the state doesn't have all the evidence in place. Some of it they just have to assume, and you never really have all the evidence unless it's all committed on video. That can be identified and everything. But in this case, there's no real witnesses to the crime. You've got neighbors that hear things but didn't see it, and so although the evidence to me seems to paint the story really well, the defense may be just being on the technicality saying, but is there a possibility it went another way? Is there a reasonable doubt that could still exist? Thank you, Miss L. Appreciate it. You know, the like button's good, but 82% of you don't subscribe. I don't know why, because you keep coming back. And on today only, well, today and tomorrow, forever, subscribing is free. Please do subscribe. It'd be great. I'd love to see you, to see me pop up on your feed
I'll show you
more often.
What's been marked for identification as 59H. Does that help us?
Churchy, this defense lawyer has been if you go back and watch from the beginning of the video feed this morning, even before we went live, she was so effective and eloquent and well researched and well spoken, and just in arguing her case to try to keep that prior act out. She did a good job. The judge commended her and said, "Hey, you did a really good job. I'm going to go the other way, but you did a really good job arguing this." So I think the defense is doing a great job. Unfortunately, they don't have much to work with. So and they lost one of their big pieces that they really needed to win. Compelling evidence. He's going down. That's the way it looks right now. Ashley, fix it. Yeah, well, CB, eventually we're going to have true crime, or pre-crime, right? And we'll be arrested right before we commit the crime, because the computer will be able to determine when it's going to happen. Hey, Joe, I need to change it to Discovery Addict. I think that would be a great name. But I'm sort of attached to RA,
Yes.
so I'm torn. Maybe I could do both. Discovery Recovery Addicts. Discovery goes better with court and with metal detecting.
Let's go with exhibit
Recovery
number
Addicts it has that
59
the addiction part seems to be emphasized in that.
W.
Matthew Harris says
Maybe it's
most defense attorneys focus on the reasonable doubt factor in defending these types of cases. It's a high burden, especially in consideration of the possible punishment. Right, with the death penalty on the other side. If you can inject just enough doubt to make the jury think, am I confident enough that I'll put this man to death, or is there a chance there's somebody else out there that's guilty?
Your chin is turned to the left. The collarbone's right about here. And we're talking about
I'm sorry?
we're talking about this one here.
That one right there, okay. Let me show you the other photograph while you're up. The one that you said would also help us. And this is B.
Lori is a believer, coming in with a variant of a famous song.
So,
Free donuts, free virtual donuts for all new subscribers today only, courtesy of Abby.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
All right,
very
let's,
much, Abby.
let's discuss that wound.
so this is labeled Roman numeral 5 in my report, page 6. Essentially, this wound right above the collarbone, just below the right ear, on the right side of the neck, and this extended through the skin. The right-sided sternocleidomastoid, so the big muscle on the neck, went through some of the muscles that lie right underneath it and penetrated into the first rib on the right.
All right, and can you tell us the approximate depth of that wound?
The approximate depth was
Joe Friday is not an ostrich still, but now he's Joe Friday. So welcome. That's a great name.
this one was a few centimeters. I did not note it in the report so that I can see.
All right, and again, I want to ask you the same questions about the vitality of the response.
2 cents. It's my understanding that they have not been able to recover the weapon, which is bizarre, because they've got a blood trail from the scene to where he was.
Yes,
And
this
so
one
you'd
was
think
against
that
hemorrhagic,
you could
blood was
reach out to a metal detectorist and locate that. Even if it was thrown, the proximity it could go is limited. And so I'm not sure if there's a river or something like that would have to drag with a magnet or something, but I'm surprised they don't have the weapon on this.
All right, is there anything else about that wound that you haven't told us about that we should know?
No.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next wound. What number is that? Roman numeral what?
Roman numeral 6.
Number 6, okay.
This wound was also categorized as sharp force, meaning it had characteristics of both stab and cut type wounds.
Hey, Ola, the only problem I have with Discord is I always forget my password. And then trying to recover your password in Discord is difficult. Let's put it that way. Not impossible, but difficult, because I always lose my little key, safety number, codes, and everything. So if somebody can teach me how to do that, Discord might be a good option for us to communicate outside of live streams.
No, I'm sorry. It's 59V. V. Is that the wound we're talking about?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Patty.
Tell us
Appreciate you
about
being
that
here.
wound. Describe it for us, please.
So again, this had features about the stab and incise wound, meaning portions of it were very deep and other portions of it showed more of a cut type motion to it. This wound was hemorrhagic, so the heart was beating during the time it was inflicted. It went through, the posterior surface of the right side of the neck into the right trapezius muscle and several other muscles that are on the posterior surface on the right side of the neck that work in holding the head up and for movement. And it extended all the way to the spinous process of cervical vertebra 3. So again, the bone of the spine, and it did not go through to the spinal cord.
So it went to the spinous process of cervical number 3, correct? And any damage to the spinous process other than enough for you to recognize it, or what?
Stephen
It
Lee's
didn't
about to have his
fracture, it's
identity
merely
stolen, I
just like
think.
a very superficial indentation into the bone.
All right, so there was no damage to the spinal cord at that point?
Correct.
Was there ever damage to the spinal cord in this case?
No.
Hey, toxic. That's tempting. Let me.
All right. Was this wound fatal or potentially fatal?
Are you open to letting people on?
Without medical intervention, this was potentially fatal.
But this wound also showed signs of hemorrhagic reaction,
Yes, sir.
indicating Kate Baker was alive when this occurred.
Yes.
I can research that. I'm not sure which jail he's at. I know he was in an orange jumpsuit in his
All right.
earlier
I
appearance
see there's
that said inmate on the
a,
front, but I'm not sure which
Shape
jail.
to this wound, is it one wound or is it more than one wound? Can you, based upon your observations and based upon your experience, kind of describe the potential scenarios of how this wound was inflicted?
So the top portion of the wound. So the top portion of the wound, the most potential, this is a stab, and then the shape of the wound shows movement, whether it was by her or whoever gave her the injury. So it's going deep here, and then it goes more superficial and down. So there's potential. It's 2 wounds, 1 wound that was confluent. Those are both possibilities.
Thank you.
He's really coming across so shook up as she's recounting all these injuries.
All right. Anything else about that wound that you need to describe for us?
No.
Thank you. What's the next wound?
So this is Roman numeral 7. We're on the back portion of her neck, and it's an incised wound on that left portion of the neck.
Hey, toxic.
It's right underneath the hairline.
Okay.
That's me. I'd love to join and maybe learn a little bit about how it works.
Show you what has been marked for identification of State's Exhibit number 59C. Oh, is this? I'm sorry, it's 59U. Does that photograph depict the injury you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and tell us about that one, please.
So this is a very superficial wound. It's very pale. So this would be likely a perimortem injury based on the body's reaction to it. Blood loss has already occurred. Heart's not pumping quite as vigorously. She still could potentially have a heartbeat during this wound. It's very superficial. No major structures were injured in them.
When you say perimortem, just to make sure that we all are clear as to what you mean by that term, what does that mean?
Just in and around the time of death. So the heart could be slowing down significantly, but technically be pumping, but not enough blood flow to get to that area that would make it look a little bit more hard to distinguish between whether the heart was pumping or not pumping at that time.
Again, that wound would not be fatal,
Correct.
would not result in the loss of consciousness.
Correct.
All right, let's move on to the next wound. Unless there's anything else you need to tell me about that one.
I don't believe so.
Okay, let's go.
This is Roman numeral 8.
All right, what is 8?
This is a superficial stab wound to the right supraclavicular region of the chest.
right collarbone.
Yeah, right around the right collarbone.
All right. Let me show you 59B. Does that 59B help us?
No. Potentially the intake photo might have it.
Oh, the intake photo. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Toxic. I just put mine up there. I'm not sure if you saw that earlier. I'd love an invite to check out your Discord, if you're willing. That would be great. Oh, sounds good.
The
Thank you very
intake
much.
photo does. How about E? How about 59E? Does that help or no?
I believe it is
All right.
first-degree murder. Death
ahead.
penalty is on the table.
Very small, very superficial wounds. Has a little more depth than cut wood, so it's a considered stab wound. Its depth is pretty insignificant. It doesn't hit any major structures. The coloration of it is a little more red-orange. So again, probably more close to post-mortem, potentially peri-mortem when the wound was inflicted.
Okay. All right. Are there any other wounds other than the hand wounds that you need to describe for us?
There is a very superficial wound on the left infraclavicular region of the chest. It's very pale, very likely post-mortem, didn't inflict any major injuries. I know it's photographed in the autopsy photos. I don't observe it here. And this is with the lighting. I don't think we can see it in this photograph.
And which side is it now?
It's on the left side.
Christine, yes, this is state's
All right.
witness.
Why
I
don't-
think
why
this
don't
is
we- what are
the
those
first of
then-
7 today for them.
The inside,
She's testifying to the autopsy
sharp force
on all the
wounds
injuries
that
on
we're talking about.
the victim's body.
Were there other injury to Kay Baker which were not sharp or incised wounds that we need to discuss?
Other than the wounds in the hands that we haven't discussed, there were some minor blunt impact injuries. So that includes things like
The neighbors did
lacerations
hear
or the true
did
cut
hear
of your
sounds.
skull, and strike yourself, and abrasions.
I believe we've already passed that testimony
All
point.
right, let's talk about some other injury. We have
Seriously.
F, 59F. For example, what is 59F? Depict if there are anything other than sharp force injuries.
So this is her arm. We're looking for contusions, and in this one it's difficult to appreciate, but I don't appreciate any on this.
Hey Kelly, we know he was out of jail
Okay.
for 5 months when he committed, allegedly committed this one. So not too long, but I don't know how soon after he got out they met, or if they were
59H.
acquainted before.
Is there anything additional you can provide as to any other injuries in 59H?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and previous days, his parents have been in the courtroom as well.
59I.
They were there for some other phases. I haven't seen them in the courtroom right now, but in other phases they were seated behind him, so you could see both him and them at the same time.
And 59K.
Yes, first victim did survive. I believe she was stabbed 7 times.
No.
All right, let's talk about wounds at or injury to Kay Baker's hand. Let's first start with the left hand. What can you tell us about that?
So that Autopsy discoloration, we've taken fingerprints from her as a part of her intake, so that's why we have that discoloration. The hands have been cleaned up to a degree, and where's it? Right there. There's better photographs of the hands with it open where we can actually see inside.
All right, no, we'll get to those.
Abby, I see your
Let's
order
first
for the
start off
mug.
with
It should definitely arrive before Christmas.
The right hand, J, 59J. What can you tell us about that?
So this purple discoloration, that's bruising or contusion is used in the report.
Yeah, let's see if there's emotion there, right? Or if he's just mad. Woot woot.
And here's
I hope you love it, Abby.
the left hand. What does that show you, if anything?
This Kelly, this is a medical examiner going over the autopsy photos.
Okay.
Lori, say hi from all of us.
Any non-blunt force trauma that you can recognize in 59T?
There is a contusion right here. It's a faint purple pink contusion or bruising.
59P.
These are superficial abrasions and contusions in this area.
Miss L, this the emotion you're seeing on the defendant today began when these photos started being displayed.
59R.
The quality of photograph isn't really bringing out, but there's some superficial abrasions in this area.
And is there anything here?
And yes, it appears.
Mr. Upper Torso, regarding these prior acts, I believe they've said they want two witnesses they want to bring in to testify about it, and one is was the investigator
All right, 59S,
for
what
that,
does that show
prior
us?
act.
As far as injury or damage, injuries to K. Baker?
This is just an overall photograph after I've had a chance to clean up the back to assess for injuries. I don't appreciate anything. Here, the pink red discoloration is part of the lividity or the settling of the blood pooling.
Okay, so I want to show you all the photographs of the hands, and I want you to tell me what you can about any of them. This is 59G.
So we're looking at an overall forearm, which appears without injury, and then here on the palm of the hand, that purple discoloration that's consistent with bruising, contusion.
trying to find a map of the area where this crime occurred, like the neighborhood map. I know it was in Lithia, Florida.
Those other photographs will assist you. Did tell us about what your autopsy report showed regarding any injury or damages to the hand. Mr. Diaz has brought to my attention. Oh, thank you very much. We have 60, photograph 60. Thank you very much. All right. To the hands. $60B. What does that show?
Are you able to sharpen it a little bit so we'll light it up? Yeah, that's good. So we have a lot of the incised cut type wounds here on the palm, one here on the pinky, and then one that has more of a braided look, and then there's an adjacent one on this finger that are all very superficial on the hands.
All right. Are you familiar with the term defensive wounds?
Yes.
And what does that mean?
Injuries sustained and an attack. So the victim is attempting to protect themselves in some way. In blade type wounds, they tend to, if they're grabbing at the blade or trying to prevent someone from hurting the face or another part of the body and using the hands for protection.
All right. So for the sake of a hypothetical, if Kay Baker is in a struggle with another person, are those wounds consistent with Kay Baker attempting to defend herself?
Yes, they could be. Yes.
All right. Next, 60C.
Randy, he's showing emotion as the pictures of his slain girlfriend are shown. All the wounds are shown.
The wound on the palm, this is just a closer photograph of that wound. There's a little bit of hemorrhage in that skin that you can see. The heart pumping during this inflection of this wound.
Toxic. Let me
60D?
give you some temporary access here. Go ahead and fire that off now.
The wound here, very superficial. The wound here, and the image quality is a little difficult. I believe that this photograph is trying to show a closer image of this wound here.
Again, those wounds are consistent with defensive wounds.
It could be, yes.
There's no way you can tell. There's no way you can tell to a reasonable degree of medical certainty exactly how those wounds were inflicted, but they are consistent with defensive wounds.
Correct.
You just can't say one way or the other.
Correct.
$60E.
Well, Weather Watch, they have some problems. They don't have the weapon. Their motive is a fight or an argument that happened at a bar, and that happened on video. I mean, at least there's the encounter happened on video. There's some text messages. There's some friends that were there that saw the argument, but they have a few pieces, but there are some holes. So I don't know. I think they'll be able to put the pieces together.
When these were inflicted, but very superficial, didn't sustain any major damage.
And could those all those wounds be inflicted using a sharp instrument?
Correct.
$60F.
We're looking at the side of the finger. Then,
One thing about this
with the
case
other
is
defendant,
from the moment
for
the
forced
police found
entry,
him,
this is like
he asked for a lawyer.
part
He
of
made no
that
statements.
whole,
So there's
pattern.
nothing
They very
as far as,
superficial,
what he
without
was
the other
saying
side,
when they
could
arrived
use
on
it as
scene
separation.
that they can
One
use
inside
against him.
wound, it's likely that it's part of the incised wound infection.
H.
So now we're looking at the other hand, the palmar side. Another incised wound, cut wound here, and here. And visible, and I can observe from the quality of the photograph, and I apologize.
Hey, Ferry, I think they searched the house when they arrived. They cleared the house, and then they brought in a dog and found him not very far away in the tree line.
For certain, and there's a little bit of a hemorrhagic reaction to it, so perimortem again, very superficial, didn't hit any major structures that would cause death.
60I.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's past time for your morning break, so let's go ahead and take our morning 15-minute break. Please do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Please do not do any research related to the case. We'll see you back in about 15 minutes. All rise, please.
We got a nice close-up of the defendant's neck. Purely coincidental, but there are some injuries that he sustained on his neck when they
As
arrested.
exit, everyone may be seated. Doctor, you may step down, and I apologize, but there is no way. I promised them a morning break, and there is no way that we're going to finish your testimony. So since it was past the time for the morning break, I decided to go ahead and give it to them.
No problem.
You're still on the stand, so you can't discuss your testimony with anyone, but please enjoy the 15-minute break.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Perry, you still think we're going to rip through 9 witnesses today?
Maybe.
9
Depends
witnesses.
how much faster they go with their other witnesses.
I'm not going to swing at that softball. Have a nice break.
Judge, you know that they.
Oh, yes,
closed
I
the-
apologize. Yes. We're going to need to talk about that. They closed the Hillsborough County schools.
Okay, so they just cut out the audio when they're talking about the storm. Sounds like there's some school closures in the area. My lip reading is not very good. I can make up what I think he's saying, but it has nothing to do with. No, I can't lip read at all. If any of you are good at that, please go ahead and put it in chat. But okay, so we'll keep an eye on that for when they come back. Yeah, so I think it's a little telling. The fact that the defense says they can burn through these witnesses means they're not going to spend a lot of time questioning the medical examiner. They're not disputing the injuries, the nature of the injuries, and how severe they were. I think their defense is it wasn't him. I mean, yes, they happened. It wasn't him. They're tragic. It's awful, but you haven't proved that Matthew Terry is the one who did it. Churchy says, could you show the clip of Matthew Terry being found? Might be useful for the chat. It's police body cam footage. I could probably get it. Maybe not in time for the break, because when I'm searching for stuff, my wife's pointed out that there are long pauses, and I stop mid-sentence. My brain can't function doing 2 things at once, and that's not what you want to what you want to see. Okay, so what do you think? How many of you guys, should we do a poll? Let's do a quick poll here on Matthew Terry. This is going to be our smallest poll ever. The poll is up. And it's just simple. Tears, real or fake? Did you buy the emotion he was showing? And I guess by that, did you buy the I guess we'll have to go. There's a follow-up question, right? If you did buy the emotion, do you think it's genuine emotion for the injuries and for the loss of this his girlfriend, or if it's maybe related to his future opportunities and the loss of those? Matthew Harris comes through in a clinch. He says, Recovery Addict, I'm a world-renowned lip reader. The judge said, thank you all for being here. Please go and like and subscribe to the Recovery Addict channel and be sure to stay for the live stream. Nailed it. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Ashley said, I lip read the word shower. I don't think I'm very good at lip reading. Okay, it might have been talking about rain showers, so possibly. You don't want to see him in his undies. They are how do I put this politely? Minimalist attire. My granddaughter can lip read too because she's deaf. That is a skill. That's awesome. True Celtic says, I know your pain about stopping mid-sentence. I apologize. And please, don't be afraid to put it in chat and say, hey, you left us hanging. Please finish the sentence that started. I'd hate it when, and then just I leave it. So, yeah, go ahead and point out when I get distracted. Shane says, what's the story regarding Cummings' verdict yet? Shane, you missed it. I'm sorry. Most of the UK guys really were in a bad spot for that one because late last night, after 3 hours of deliberation, the jury did not go home. They told the judge, we don't want to leave and go vote. We want to wrap up what we're doing here. It took about 3 hours of deliberation. They came back with not guilty verdicts on both counts. So they basically said it was self-defense. And so he's a free man. He's out. Those last 2.5 years of his life that he spent in jail are over, and he's free to go about his heli-skiing company or whatever else he wants to do. So that is over. I apologize. Yeah, we went live as soon as I saw word that they were coming back and they brought the camera back in the courtroom. We went live and shared that. We only had about 40 addicts in here watching it as it happened, just because of the lateness of the hour. But that's where it was. Katie Q says, I'm undecided about the reason for the emotion. Let's see what the poll says here. Let's do a quick check. I think a few of you have voted here. We're going to close the polls just like they did yesterday. Hopefully all your candidates won. I'm sure all of you voted, did your civic duty. Looks like fake is 67%, real is 32%. So we've got 2/3 of you thinking it's fake. That might include people who believe it's real tears, but for a fake reason. So obviously that poll's not scientifically, it wouldn't hold up in court as evidence, let's put it that way. Real emotion isn't constant. It fades in and out. He put on that face the whole time. I noticed no change in breathing, no pacifying gestures. Chandra, you're correct. His undies were Speedo-esque. But he was, when they found him, he was, the police described him as being like gray, like ashen colored, and had lost a significant amount of blood himself, and laying in a bloody pool type thing. So we'll probably hear something more about that. Ann says, just got the county alert on my phone, tropical storm warning until Thursday. Ann, are you in Charlotte County? Is that what you'd said? Fort Myers, right? Am I confusing you with one of our other addicts? Shane says, okay, thanks, Scott. Why was he kept in jail? Talking about Dean Cummings. You've got to look back at the original, the arrest and the situation. Even looking at what happened at the grand jury testimony probably gives you an idea. They painted the picture as being a little bit different than it was. And at that point when he was arrested, they denied bail. So he was held without bail. So he was kept in jail until yesterday. Okay, I'm falling behind on the chat here. We probably need some music as well. Whose turn is it? Who has the internet today? Who did we give it to? Was that Golden? I think Abby was second. Can you guys remember whose turn it is for the internet? Miss L? No. Who's... Oh, Golden Mom chose purple, so we're going with purple. You guys like this purple song. This is Bank 2, so... We've got about 15 minutes while we wait for the judge. He promised the jury a little break. Probably want to get out and take a look at the sky, see where the storm is. No, I bet they're staying in the building. They're probably not going outside unless they have a smoke break or something. Abby says, we like purple. The local college in my area, their color is purple, so that's it's a good color around here. Dean's defense team was as good as his self-defense. Yeah, they were very, very effective at what they did. So you guys, I probably should have told you, you can, you're free to stand up and walk around, refill your drinks if you need them. We went for a drinking word today, and we were thinking it was simular, which is how the judge pronounces the word similar. But we're probably not going to hear that one very much. So if you guys have a suggestion for another drinking word for today, just knowing that the prosecution is going to be putting witnesses on the stand for most of the day, I'm taking suggestions. And the judge did allow, if you followed at the very beginning when we began this morning, the judge is going to allow the testimony from prior victims and the detective in the 2017 stabbing. So we're going to have victim and the detective. That's going to be some pretty compelling evidence. Ann is in Charlotte County. One of the counties that was hit probably the hardest with Ian. Still in the recovery mode from Ian and will be for months. And now getting a tropical storm. Even that's just insult to injury. Sorry about that, and I hope you stay safe. Churchy said, tweeted you the link to the body cam arrest. Let me... Let me take a quick look here, Churchy. Lori just sent me a painting of a dog she did. Sorry, I got distracted. Churchy, you said you tweeted me something. Let me take a look at Twitter here. Am I in East Carolina territory? I'm in Eastern North Carolina. Is that that's how we like to say it? I'm in the coastal plains area, I believe. About an hour and a half from the ocean. Twitter. What happens on Twitter? I'm not seeing the link, Churchy. You sent it to Recovery Addict on Twitter? I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I will find it. It's not the longest video. It's a pretty quick search. But it's one of those. It's at night. It's with flashlights. It's hard to see exactly what's happening. You can obviously see Mr. Terry's hands when they're up. He's laying on his back and he raises his hands when he's told to. But when the officer says, come out or the dog will bite you type thing, he didn't come out. So we'll see if we can find that. Maybe if we take a lunch break, I'll bring it back after lunch with that. They'll go outside if they have a kite. Yeah, the jury's out flying kites today. It's a beautiful day for it. A nice break from trial, especially with what they had to watch so far. I've been standing since you went live. You never told us to be seated. 7, I'm going to have to get a bailiff or something in here that can tell people to be seated because I forget. Really, I mean, I take my seat. I just assume you're sitting. You've got to realize that you can see me, but I cannot see you. So I don't have that visual reminder of your body posture. I live where the air hurts my face, so no hurricanes. I don't root for Duke. True. They're a little too far away. I've got the local college. That's really, I think the only thing they really excel at is in drinking, but ECU is the local school. Miss L says, I'm getting ice pellets now with wind. May lose power. 12 inches of snow on the way. That'll be a very crabby grandma. Miss L, hopefully you stay warm through all that and your internet and your power stays on, so at least we can help you through that 12 inches of snow. I won't be able to come help you shovel, though. Sorry about that. I think you're on your own on that one. Okay, Matthew Harris says, Recovery Addict, new rule, everyone drinks when your microwave beeps. Okay, that beeping you're hearing is actually our home alarm. It's the awesomest thing we've ever had, and I don't hear it anymore. So which is funny because you guys obviously hear it. It does a beep beep beep, and then it will tell me which door is open in the house. If it's a garage door, back door, front door, it's got all these different voices for which alarm point was opened. So yeah, it's not a microwave. The microwave is a lot quieter than that, and another room or two away. But you would be drinking a lot because my kids are constantly in and out of the house. It's like a revolving door. I could adjust my microphone actually. Let's see, audio processing. I could change the noise gate so you wouldn't hear that, but it might clip out some of my voice as well, and it would sound funny. Let's see. We've got a few more minutes. Does somebody have another color they wanted to choose? Bank 1 or Bank 2? I will say, even if it's like a twangy country song, we're going to listen to it all the way through. First one up with the color, Bank 1 or Bank 2 and a color, we'll play it. Ashley says, I laugh when you get distracted because I have ADHD. Let me find this link. Oh, something sent me a dog painting. Just sums up my life. Drink, Matthew. We just had the beep again. It sounds just like my microwave. It just leaves me craving Hot Pockets during your live streams. I do what I can, Kelly Harper, not too far from me. I'm actually in a small town west of Burlington called Claremont, North Carolina. We are on a break, Donna. The judge gave us 15 minutes for the jury to stretch their legs a little bit and get a break from the grotesque autopsy pictures they're looking at with all the injuries. We are not seeing any of the pictures. The cameras are not showing them, so you're safe to watch this here, but there is a pretty graphic description being offered by the medical examiner on each one. Bank 1 purple. Oh, wait. First one, I almost went with Ven. Ashley got Bank 1 blue. Let's go back and see. Okay, this is a little bit twangy. Maybe this will help us relax a little bit. It's a front porch sort of vibe, out west, big sky, cup of hot chocolate in hand, rocking chair on the porch. Today's live stream is sponsored by Hot Pockets. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's no problem. I can actually assign colors. I think I have the same colors on both banks. Yeah. It'll help if I show you, huh? That would be more helpful. So the audio is are these 8 buttons here, and I've got 2 banks of 8 with different songs. So anytime you need a song, you can just throw in their bank and the color, and we'll play it in the background. Oh, it looks like the toxic invite for Discord went out. I'm seeing that here somewhere. I see I've got a little flag on Discord, but I can't see where the invite is. See, this is my problem. I don't know how Discord works. Add a server, maybe? Already have an invite? I think I have an invite. I'll have to figure that out later. Toxic. It's too much for me. Yes, this is a good de-stressful song. Charlie Peterson says, Recovery Addict, have you ever read any of Missing 411 stuff? It's about people disappearing in national parks and forests. I've been addicted to it for weeks. No, but I love to go out to national parks and forests, even on my own. I love exploring the mountains. My wife, when we first met, we had an occasion to go up in the mountains on a hike, and she's like, do you ever watch where you're going? I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, you never look at your feet. You're always just looking up at the sky and around. And I'm sort of like a mountain goat that way. My feet just sort of just land wherever they're going to land. And I just love being out in nature. Good song. Great choice. I can't play any copyright music. So you guys have great song suggestions, but I wouldn't be able to play that without YouTube hitting me with the ban hammer. So, okay, so we've got a few more minutes here until the judge is going to be coming back. Good morning, beautiful people. Debbie, glad to have you here. Yeah, Toxic Orchid, give me a while. It's probably in my email or something. I think that's how it comes through. I'm just not seeing it. I'm logged in Discord. I got that far, but I'm not seeing the invite on the Discord side. I can just see my server. I've got a management company for my TikTok account, which makes me sound like a big deal, but really all they do is they give me access so I can live stream, and then they haven't talked to me since. So that's what I had Discord for this, but. Yeah, I'll find it and I'll see if I can join and check it out. I'm definitely interested in that. Appreciate that invite, Toxic. Hopefully the invite doesn't go away, in the next hour or two. Let's see. Look in chat. What was in chat? What did I miss? Ola, what did I miss? Post it again if there's something I missed. Did you post the link in chat? Did I miss that? Because if you did, it's just completely escaped me. Oh, there it is. I see it. I have to click it over here on my other computer, though, or bad things will happen. There it is. Okay, I'll get there. I will get there for sure. As the gavel drops with Toxic Orchid. Okay, I will give this a look. I think I'm in now. And thank you very much, Toxic. Maybe I can learn a little bit about this, and if we need to set up our own Discord for us that we can communicate and maybe do our own notification method, that'd be great. Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry I was late on that. Okay, so let's see. There was stuff. What did I miss here now? Okay. Roxanne's got some lyrics. That's what they are. I was trying to follow what it was. Judge is back. Hang on. Let's take a look here. Sounds like the jury's coming back in as well. This judge is just he doesn't smile like Judge Darrow. But he's just like a nice guy. He's just like, I'm so glad to be here with the judge. He's just...
All members of the jury are present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at the time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. Hope you had a sufficient break. The plan is, as always, to go up to around noon time, no later than 12:30 for our
That gives us an hour to an hour and a half.
Hopefully, we'll see what time it is when we finish with this witness, and that may be when we take our lunch break. All right, Mr. Dirks, you may proceed.
Hey, Debbie, no worries about calling. You can
Right,
call the hotline number anytime.
We finished up looking at some photographs of the wounds to the hand.
Yes.
And we also discussed briefly the concept of a defensive wound and I guess the opposite of defensive is offensive wounds.
Correct.
And
So Debbie, this hotline number, it actually doesn't ring on my phone. It goes straight to voicemail. So you literally, anyone can call anytime it's convenient and leave a message to the Recovery Addict hotline, and I'll be able to check it at my convenience, and it won't disturb me at all. So feel free.
Offensive or defensive, based upon based upon your medical opinion and your observation of the injuries themselves. Is that right?
Correct.
So if we assume, for the sake of my discussion or hypothetical, that there is a struggle going on between two individuals, and there's a sharp object involved, and as you said, you can't determine whether or not.
Okay, so Debbie, the guy who's talking right now is the prosecutor.
Both
He's representing the state of Florida in this case, and he's questioning the medical examiner who was testifying about the injuries on the victim's body.
Which they were, but assuming, for the sake of, again, a hypothetical, that Kay Baker, for example, had in her hand a sharp object, and if Kay Baker was handling a sharp object and in a struggle, there can be wounds inflicted by the person who has the knife.
Yes.
Are some of those wounds consistent with handling a knife and then being cut in the process of using that knife offensively?
Yes.
And if individuals,
So that means she was holding the knife at some point.
If they're cutting with it, then you've talked about some damages to the palm area, going in this direction.
Right.
For example, I'll show you Exhibit 60B. The 60B, that's to the left hand. Okay, so we have, for example, a wound like this.
Yes.
That's theoretically someone who's holding a knife and in the struggle actually self-inflicts a wound, not necessarily intentionally, but self-inflicts a wound in the process of using it offensively.
Yes.
Small wound like this, same thing.
Yes,
If someone is
potentially.
holding a knife in a way that we would consider someone holding a knife who's using it offensively, correct?
Yes. Blood can make the hand slip off the handle. And
slippage, that's right. Same as possibly here.
Possibly, yes.
However, if that sort of slippage that you're talking about,
Slippage, there's a good word for today.
this wound here to the left hand, is that wound seem consistent or inconsistent with a slippage of a knife when used offensively?
Depends on how she's holding the blade. If the blade has two sharp sides to it, there's a lot of factors.
You found defensive or possibly defensive wounds. You found wounds on both the left hand and the right hand.
Yes.
So by that same token, if someone was in the middle of a violent struggle and the knife slippage is part of that, and if there's both to the left hand to the right hand, apparently somehow an individual is armed with two knives,
Right.
or somehow or some way the knife was transferred from the right hand to the left hand for that to occur.
Correct.
However, if it was a defensive wound, it would be consistent with an individual attempting to defend themselves using whatever hands were available and warding off an attack with what other means available.
Yes.
Now, we looked at all the photographs of Kay Baker, and you talked about the wounds that were inflicted on Kay Baker. Were there any wounds of significance above the nose or below,
We'll see you, Katrina.
below the chest?
Thanks for being here when you could.
So all the wounds were basically confined to this area between the mouth and the bottom of the neck or the top of the chest.
Yes.
All right. You talked about you did an internal examination as well.
Yes.
As part of the autopsy process. I think we've gone through that. Can we go through that, please?
Sure, we can go through that again. So
She's loud again.
the true internal portion is what's known as the autopsy, colloquially. That is when I'm doing the invasive part of the exam. So I do a stepwise fashion of taking scalpel blade. I have to go from collarbone to the center of the chest and open up the chest cavity, the abdominal cavity, and the neck and the head at some point during the autopsy as well, to look at all the visceral organs with the naked
I'm
eye.
out. I
And
can't do that.
take histologic sections, meaning I take little small portions.
I can clean a fish, and that's about the limit of what I can do.
Natural disease or disease processes that could be occurring that I can't see with the naked eye.
And based upon that examination, did you find anything of significance that would have any effect upon your opinion as to the cause of death of Kay Baker?
Yes, the wound trajectories were consistent enough to cause the death of Kay Baker.
So based upon all of your examination, did you arrive at an opinion and conclusion to a reasonable medical certainty as the cause of death of Kay Baker?
Yes.
And what was that opinion or conclusion?
So the cause of death in this case was stab and incised wounds to neck with perforation of carotid artery, jugular veins, and larynx.
Okay, let's see if we can break that down, if I can understand that better from you. You talked about the injuries that involve which particular injury that we discussed was the contributing factor to the cause of death?
So the wound that was on the left side of the neck that was described in Roman numeral 2 in this case, that was the major inflicting wounds that had commingled, appeared to have the stab and incised features. That is the major injury that caused her death.
Including the one that dissected her or bisected her larynx.
Yes.
So that was the cause. What happened to Kay Baker? Why did she die? In the sense, was it a loss of blood?
Yes, blood loss, and her airway was also transected. So the blood going in and out of the torso from the heart to the brain, those vessels were transected, and then the airway where the larynx is, she couldn't breathe as well.
Okay, so loss of blood.
Laura,
she
you
would
missed
have
a
died from that,
ton.
and she would have
Glad you're
died
here, though.
by the fact that she no longer had an airway.
Correct.
I want to talk with you about.
Okay, so while they're going through some of these details, basically we understand that she died from this vicious knife attack that was focused around her neck area. It was bad. It was.
Sharp edge to it. And so
She's trying to describe what the weapon is, and basically all she can describe is that it has sort of like knife sort of characteristics. I did get a couple.
Again, just to make sure that we understand.
A couple contacts from a couple people. MB, thanks for your explanation. I appreciate that on the events that happened with you and Twitter. Completely understand how that goes down, and it's frustrating. I also got a text from Lori with a picture of her dog. I'll share it with you guys when we have a break. She did a painting of her dog, and it's awesome.
Blunt object creates a very
She's got some
ragged
talent.
border, to the wound, so you can tell the difference between laceration and incised wound or sharp force wound.
Okay, you can't further define the sharp object other than what you described them. But let me give you a hypothetical.
They're saying basically, could it be in the knife out of the kitchen block? The knife that was missing.
Certainty as to that. I want to know if Kay Baker was involved in a struggle with a stronger adult male, and assume further that male was armed with a 3-inch bird's beak knife.
Jeff, wait a minute, Jeff. Synopsis started
Yes, you can't. A bird's beak knife is a knife that has a curve to it, like a curve of a finger, like this. While they approach, we're going to show Lori's dog. You want to see this? And Lori, if I read the message wrong, if it's not your dog, then I apologize here. But we'll go ahead and show the painting.
Is it possible that
Great job on the painting.
bird's beak?
Let him finish.
That is awesome.
Don't answer until I've ruled.
Okay, so
Is it
got some
possible
drama
that
here
a
in the corner.
3-inch
Let's listen up.
bird's beak knife was used to cause the death of Kay Baker?
Hold on.
Objection.
Legal
What's
bit.
possible is not standard. It's what she can testify to a reasonable degree of medical certainty.
I'll sustain.
May we approach Your Honor?
I don't think that the prosecution is going to win on this one. He said, "May we approach?" He's like, "Nope, nope. I've ruled it out." So they're trying to get this bird's beak part in there because that's the knife that was missing out of the kitchen block. Right, that's the shape of the knife, and there's like one knife
Dr.
missing.
Berger, did you,
I could bring one in and
You
show you. I've
mentioned
got the
that
same
some-
sort of block
some-
in my kitchen.
evidence was collected from the body of Kay Baker at the medical examiner's office?
For sure, Weather Watch. Let me do that right now.
And would those would that evidence including a blood standard card of Kay Baker?
Yes.
And was a blood standard card obtained and then turned over to law enforcement, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office in this case?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification of safety exhibit number 62. Ask you to take a look at that package and the markings on that package and tell me if that appears to be the blood standard card of Kay Baker.
I'm building this poll right now, Churchy.
Thank you.
I don't know why they turned the audio off.
Time the state offers state exhibit number 62.
Any objection?
I believe it's being opened and verified what's in there, but as long as she opens and verifies it, no objection.
All right. You want to show it to her and ask her some more questions?
Yes, yes.
I'll bring the knife.
Open up state exhibit number 62.
I would ask my kids to bring it, but that would not be safe. If you let me step away from the bench and keep an eye on everything, I'll go get one.
I would like to.
You show it to them after you open it.
We'll leave the voting open just for a few minutes because I know some of you actually are watching this a little delayed. Like if you go down into the timeline, you might see that that you're not all the way up to the live moment. You're sort of watching a delayed broadcast. I can tell because of how the chat works. Some of you are posting a minute or two after something happens, and that's fine. That's fine. Just if you need to pause me. That's great. But just want to leave the poll open for a little bit just for that reason, so you guys can hear it in wherever you are in the video and respond before we get rid of it. Okay, I'm going to run to get the knife. Well, first somebody choose a song, and I'll run and get the knife while the song's playing. Bank 1, bank 2, and then you choose one of these colors. What'll it be? Red 2. There it is. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay. Let me switch cameras here. Okay. So this is my understanding of what a bird's beak knife is right here. Just got to focus on my hand here.
All right,
You can see that curve? It's about a 3-inch knife. So you got 1, 2, 3. It's about 3 inches long. And they're basically saying, could the injuries have been caused by this?
Any deed that sufficiently satisfies you of the contents?
Yes.
Let's get back to
That's my signature? Yes.
let's get back to the court case here.
Yes.
This time you see the statement offer exhibit number 62 on it.
No objection.
62 will be admitted.
See that camera there in front of
All
her by
right,
the microphone? That's a Pantelp Zoom
Dr.
camera.
Perkins, I'm going to show you what it has been marked for what has it been admitted, station exhibit number 27A through F. You would take a look at 27A through F.
Going to go ahead and close the poll here. Got one vote came in right at the last minute, but it looks like we're almost 2/3. So in favor of death penalty, 61%. That's just in general, not this case.
Previously had an
And
opportunity.
38% opposed.
Those
So
photographs.
Yes.
if those same numbers are represented in the jury in Florida, it may be difficult to find him guilty
All right,
or
and 27
sentence him to a death penalty.
A through F is depicted some wounds to the defendant, Matthew Terry.
Yes.
You know,
Heather, I'm glad you got in there. I saw that
Show
number
them.
change right as I clicked on it.
27A. B. C. D. E.
More injury pictures, obviously, because that's where the medical examiner's up.
And F.
I think they've got lesser charges on the table, Weather Watch. I think they could do life in prison.
All right, Dr. Perkins,
They turned the audio up, and then he just yelled right into the
based
microphone.
upon your experience as a medical examiner, have you had an opportunity to observe wounds inflicted by individuals either in a violent struggle? Yes?
Yes.
And have you had the experience of viewing wounds which are self-inflicted?
Yes.
So
Is there anything about your observation of the wounds to the neck of Matthew Terry which leads you to conclude that those wounds must have been inflicted by some other person?
It's possible.
As you look at those wounds, based upon your experience, were those wounds to Matthew Terry's neck, are those wounds more consistent with a self-inflicted wound or more consistent with the wounds inflicted during a violent struggle between two persons?
Objection
Legal basis?
to the categorization. Are we talking about an opinion to a degree of medical certainty?
No rule objection, I'll allow.
I just, based on photograph, I didn't examine the wounds in person. I don't know their depth. I don't know the structures that they had injured, and they're dirty in this photograph. So it's possible it could be inflicted by another or self-inflicted.
So they're saying it's a possibility, which means she doesn't know. And I'm surprised they allowed the medical examiner to testify to that.
You
She's only
mentioned
looked
that
at
it was,
pictures.
you didn't know the depth of the wounds. What significance would that have?
It gives an idea of what structures that were potentially hit, if they're fatal type wounds, if they were wounds that could cause death.
Yeah. So assume that those wounds that were inflicted did not hit any vital structures. Yeah, damage only some damage to the sternocleidomastoid muscle and fatty tissue. No excessive bleeding, which caused immediate necessity of medical intervention, life-saving measures. Does that added information lead you to lean one way or another as to whether those could be self-inflicted wounds or wounds which were incurred during a violent struggle?
Objection to the term leans. Again, we are far afield from what is an opinion based on medical certainty.
Rephrase the question.
Yes, Your Honor. Does the fact that when I described it, if those wounds were not deep, did not cause that sort of excessive bleeding where immediate intervention was involved, does that affect your opinion?
It could open up the possibility that it could be self-inflicted, but again, cannot be ruled out that it was not inflicted by another.
Are you familiar with the term hesitation wounds?
Yes.
And what are hesitation wounds?
We see these type of wounds in suicides when they're using a sharp blade. So the individual is going to cut themselves, but they tend to hesitate before they inflict that wound. So instead of it just being one nice clean wound, there tends to be a little bit of injury in and around the larger wound, showing that the individual hadn't quite committed to the process before inflicting the major wound.
As you looked at the wounds to the neck of Matthew Terry, were there any indications of hesitation wounds in that injury?
It's difficult to tell in this photograph. It's dirty. I didn't examine the wounds in person. There's a smaller wound adjacent to the larger one. Could be hesitation type of mark, but again, I can't say with a degree of medical certainty that it is.
Did you see in the wounds that there were two separate wounds, basically similar wounds on either side of the neck?
Yes.
Again, assuming you had that those wounds were either self-inflicted or those wounds were inflicted during the course of a violent struggle that took place over a matter of seconds to a minute. Does that affect your? Does that description of the?
I don't think they get
location
the answers
of
they
those
want from her.
wounds, affect your opinion?
Them being very even and very similar location, it's not likely in a situation of a struggle that you would have very equal wounds. But again, I can't say with a degree of medical certainty that's not a possibility.
It probably goes without saying, but those wounds were put in a position where someone, if they wanted to self-inflict wounds, it was in a position where they could do that. Is that correct?
It's if someone had functioning arms and there was nothing obstructing them, then yes, that is somewhere a person could reach to self-inflict a wound.
You might have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
There's very few places on the body where you couldn't reach to do that. Possibly certain directions of
What was
cuts
the
on
height
her
and weight
back.
of Kay Baker?
She was, at the time of autopsy, 5 foot 5 inches, 144 pounds.
He's going to ask the same question, Chandra, until he gets the answer he wants. She didn't come back.
All right, Dr. Perkins, that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
You can tell that you didn't like the answer.
Cross-examination?
I'm not sure why he asked the question when she answered. Basically said, yes, it's possible that it happens in an attack against him.
Good morning, Dr. Perkins.
Did help the defense.
You indicated that it was possible, but it's also possible that those wounds were inflicted by somebody else to Matthew Terry, right?
To Matthew Terry? Yes.
And also, you talked about how if they're in the exact same spot and if they're the exact same size, that might make it less likely to be something during a struggle. You didn't get to see those wounds in person to actually see if they were the same size, right?
That's correct.
And seeing them in person would obviously be very different than seeing them in a photograph, of course.
Yes.
And here, you even mentioned that those photographs were dirty, so they're not
She's
really
gonna say,
the
you're not
best
saying with
photographs
medical
to even
certainty
use to
this is
judge
what's
that
happened,
kind of
right?
thing, right?
Correct.
In regard to your autopsy of Kay Baker, I don't think I have a lot of
You won't have many questions.
dispute or question about your findings. I just want to point out a couple of things. You talked a little bit about the blood on the scene because you actually got to go out to the scene.
Yes.
You can't tell anything from the blood except that Kay Baker was there, right?
Just there was an amount of it underneath her body. Yes.
Sure. And you can't tell if that blood on the scene in total was left entirely by Kay Baker or by Kay Baker and Matthew Terry or even by 3 or even 4 people, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's nothing that tells you how many people were involved in this.
4 people. This is a new
altercation.
defense we
Yeah.
haven't heard.
Okay. Nothing that tells you who committed the stab wounds that were caused to Ms. Baker.
Correct.
Nothing that would tell you anything about the sequence of how those wounds were incurred.
Correct.
Nothing that would tell you anything about the timing of the wounds.
Correct.
Can't tell even if these wounds were something that occurred in seconds, right?
Correct.
And additionally, you can't tell what kind of blade committed these wounds, right?
Correct.
Could I just have a moment?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the defense has done this with basically every witness that's testified to things that happen and just reinforced this doubt. The possibility that it happened a different way than what the
Dr. Perkins,
prosecution is saying.
on cross-examination, you made some statements or testimony regarding limitations of what you could learn or what you couldn't learn from the injuries. However, you talked about Roman numeral 2, the fatal injury.
Yes.
From your observations of the scene, do you have an opinion as to whether or not Kay Baker could have moved for any appreciable distance from the place that she was found after sustaining that fatal wound?
That injury would have been occurred in that feet of where the body was.
And at that point, would her heart stop and death would be imminent?
It wouldn't immediately stop, but death would have occurred right after.
Okay, so you talked about the wounds earlier, the other 10 wounds or so that showed evidence of hemorrhagic or vital reaction.
Yes.
So how is it possible that those injuries would have occurred right there at the scene? How would that happen?
It's not impossible. The wounds sustained to the neck would allow her some degree of seconds of life. It's not a neurological death, like getting shot in the brain and then everything shuts down. This is a bleeding out process and a loss of airway. So it takes a little bit of time for the organs to completely shut down. So those other wounds could have been sustained after that larger wound was inflicted. They could have happened prior, and the larger wound was the last wound. I can't definitively tell because everything does have a vital reaction.
Okay, so under your scenario, if they could have occurred at the same time, the fatal wound was inflicted, and then the assailant decided to inflict other superficial wounds after inflicting the fatal wound?
It's possible. I can't definitively rule that out.
Or the other alternative is those other superficial wounds which showed a heartbeat were inflicted at a place and a location and a time prior to the infliction of the fatal wound.
Yes.
Okay, so it's consistent with that as well.
Yes.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
May this witness be released by the state?
No, Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
No.
All right, subject to recall. You may step down. No need to remain.
Okay, when they say no,
All right,
they
you can
basically
leave
say we
before
might
subject
want her
to
back to ask more questions.
Thank you.
She was surprised by that. She's like, no,
We'll
there's
ask
more.
the state to go ahead and call your next witness.
State calls Dr. Kelly Devers.
Judge, could we first?
Yes.
This lawyer is not the fiery, the firebrand we saw in the Dean Cummings case, but she's very, very good. She's very well spoken. She argues very well in front of the judge. Her objections are on point. She's not letting much slide, so it's very good. Let's see. Again, defense making her the one on trial. Which one are we talking about, Leanna? We did call it earlier. We said the fact that the defense thought we could get through 9 witnesses today points to the fact that they don't have many questions for the medical examiner. They're not going to you the findings of the injuries on her body. Because they're not disputing that that's what happened. They're just saying that it wasn't our guy that did it. Weather Watch says, if I were in trouble, I would want her or Matthew Harris. Yep, there's some good lawyers out there. Make sure you find a good one if you do find yourself on the wrong side of the law. At no point since his arrest has Terry mentioned that someone was trying to kill them, both of them. Why would you not reveal that to police? Churchy, the right to silence is a right, and some people have various reasons for not wanting to talk to police. They might, and basically the jury's instructed that them being silent, remaining silent, can't be used against them. So whether or not that actually is fully functional, that not using it against them thing, in their deliberations, I guess we'll never know, but that is his right. Yes, they can call the witness again. They have reserved the right to recall her to the stand, and both sides can do that. And if they had both said no, then the judge would have excused her, and she would be done with the trial. She couldn't be called back up, unless some strange hoops got jumped through and there was additional evidence presented. And I think we had that in Darrell Brooks' case, where additional witnesses were mentioned and talked about calling more people back. Let's see. I can't accept she was the aggressor and this was Terry's attempt to defend himself. Yeah, but we did hear testimony that said that there were some injuries on her hand that were consistent with her holding a knife and using it, being the one holding the knife and using it in defense. With the earphones on, he suddenly looked like a defendant in the Nuremberg trials. Yeah, he's listening to the translation, right? Why does he wear them like that? I guess it's easier to take on and off without disturbing the glasses. But man, they're going at it up there. Do we need some more music? Whose turn is it to choose music? Bank 1 or Bank 2? And a color. Let's so you can see the colors here. There we go. I'll keep an eye on the courtroom and let you know just as soon as they come back. Golden Mom says green. Bank 1 or Bank 2? Green. I know we've got a 50. Oh, Golden Mom was first with the colors. So we're going to go with that one, Chandra. We'll have to do Bank 1. Green. Oh, apprehensive. So let's see here. What are they talking about? Which we knew, right? I think he did have some wounds on his hands as well. 2 cents, they did sort of bring in their theory of how it happened, even with the shape of the knife, and we talked about that one here. This bird's beak type knife with a little curve, a paring knife, about a 3-inch knife, common in most kitchen kitchen knife blocks. They think that's what it was. They didn't ever find the knife though, because they didn't have me metal detecting for them. The music woke you up, AJ. You're like, what's going on? This is suspense. Joe says the judge is probably talking about lunch. Maybe they're looking at a computer, so they're bringing up some evidence and discussing something, whether it's images or testimony. Judge is emphatic in his statements. A lot of times we can see how it's going because the side that's losing sort of shakes their head as they talk, and the other side's nodding. So we'll see if that plays out. Julia said, "This made my day." What did we do that made your day, Julia? The sidebar. What's on his headphones? Yeah, his headphones. He's got. He can listen to the microphone right in front of the judge, so he can hear everything that's going on in the sidebar. He can hear his lawyers arguing for him or against certain motions, things like that. Carpet knives are shaped the same way. Yes, razor sharp too. Man, those can do some damage. This is a very fair judge. Did a lot of homework last night too. I wonder if they have people looking for the knife. Ask your community. They really, if they think that he'd never left a specific area, if they knew that he, went from, the scene where she was, where they found his girlfriend, and then straight from there, they have a blood trail. They've said if he went from there to where they found him. Really, you can take a knife and practice. You can take somebody his size and weight and throw the knife as far as they can, and then draw a circle around the area from any point in there where the knife could be. And that's your search area. Obviously, metal detecting only works in areas where there's not metal. So if it's like underneath something metal, you'd have to search that visually. But you can search all the ground. You can search underwater. You can search, in the bushes, everything with a metal detector. And assuming he didn't bury it multiple feet deep, which would have looked odd, they probably would have found that in their search of the area. It's probably there. He's listening to Recovery Addict. Big shout out to him. That would be funny. Joe Friday says, what brand of metal detector do you have? I have, my favorite is a Equinox 800, which is made by MindLab. Looks like they're coming back here. We should get audio here in just a second. But I have 4 metal detectors and 3 pinpointers. I'm a bit of an addict. What can I say? A knife that size would probably have to be over a foot deep to escape detection. Yeah, let me hop on a plane. I'll run down there. If they have the murder weapon, suddenly it changes the whole outcome of this trial, right?
Yes, Your Honor. I expect that it won't last that long.
All right, then I suspect that we will take our lunch break after this witness. And I have an announcement to make, but I'll wait until after this witness.
The judge has an announcement. Now our curiosity is piqued. What does the judge have to say?
Dr. Deaver, good morning and welcome. If you'll come forward to be sworn as a witness wherever you're comfortable. If you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
I do.
Thank you, Doctor. If you'll follow the bailiff to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step.
I think
you get to that chair at the end, go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable.
In honor of her teal clothing, we'll have to play the teal song when we get a break.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
If you would, please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Dr. Kelly Garland Devers.
And I noticed that you said doctor. Do you mean medical doctor?
Yes, I'm a medical doctor.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about your educational background then? Because I know doctors have to go to school.
I got my bachelor's degree from Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. I then became a nurse, and I was an intensive care nurse for about 10 years. And then I went to medical school at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. After I, completed medical school, I went to the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque.
Patty, I think you're on this one.
did a 4-year pathology residency program there. And then I went on to Gainesville, Florida, to the University of Florida, and I completed a 2-year neuropathology fellowship there. And then after that, I came to Tampa, Florida, and completed a fellowship in forensic pathology. And I've been working at the Mexican
consulate. Where was she
medical
going with
examiner's
that?
office and in Hillsborough County.
Let me break that down for people who don't understand what fellowships and stuff are.
They're
Just
not
to become
internet courses.
An everyday sort of doctor, not a specialist or anything, you have to go to medical school, correct?
Correct.
Okay, this is in Hillsborough County in
Medical
Florida.
school is 4 years.
Okay. And so at the end of 4 years,
So I
you
think
have to
we're in
take,
the
like, a test?
13th Circuit Court.
We have to take exams to continue onward.
And if you pass your exams, then you become a doctor, an MD, as they say.
That's correct.
All right. But you talk about fellowships. Is that something beyond just becoming a medical doctor?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, we're in the Tampa
So
area.
any medical doctor who wants to go on to, say, be a surgeon or a cardiologist or a dermatologist or a forensic pathologist has to do specialty and subspecialty training, which means extra years of school.
And so what special years of training did you do specifically in the area of forensic pathology?
I did a 1-year fellowship in Hillsborough County in conjunction with the University of South Florida.
And that's beyond all the other years of schooling that you've taken.
Yes.
All right, so now you've gotten a fellowship, you become a fellow, right? In
Correct.
forensic pathology. Tell the jury what forensic pathology is. What does that mean?
Forensic pathology is the study and diagnosis of disease and injury for the purpose of determining cause and manner of death.
And so are you asked to, for example, look at wounds that people suffer and see if you can discern information about how the wound might have been caused, when a wound might have been caused, what it might have triggered in the body in terms of leading to death?
Yes.
How long have you worked as a medical examiner in Hillsborough County?
I've been at the medical examiner's office since July of 2012.
So that's 10 years or so.
Correct.
In terms of seniority, where do you fall in the ranking at the medical examiner's office?
I'm currently the chief medical examiner.
So you're in charge, as it was.
That's correct.
Beyond going to medical school and working on the job for 10 years, do you take classes to regularly update yourself on the science and the literature as far as research, stuff like that?
Do you take online
Yes.
classes?
So you are constantly evolving in the knowledge of what the science can and cannot say.
Yes.
I want to ask you, were you asked by a detective, Kevin Ratu, somewhere around August 16th to look at a series of photos to see if you could discern anything about whether or not a wound might or might not have been self-inflicted?
Yes.
Your Honor, can I approach?
You may.
Doctor, I'm going to provide you 2 packets of photos, 27A through F and 21A through H. I'm going to let you look through them, and if you see any photos that you've ever previously looked at, if you could please just pull those ones aside. But don't confuse them between packets.
Do you need some water, doctor?
Yes, please.
All right, might be able to get you some. Sorry about that.
Is there a doctor in the room to help the doctor? I'm just
remember
gonna
all
I'm
these
gonna cut
photos.
briefly
You've seen
to
all of
a
these
little bit of the
photos?
storm.
Yes.
We're watching.
All right.
I'm keeping an eye on the Fox weather
So-
out of
I'll
West
have them
Palm
both
Beach,
here at
Florida,
the
right
ready.
now.
I want to ask you,
Just
when
make
you
sure
looked
their
at
audio
these
isn't
photos,
coming
what
in.
specifically were you looking at in the photos, and what were you trying to determine, if anything?
I was asked to look at the wounds of not the person who the autopsy was performed on, but another person to offer an opinion.
Okay.
And so were you looking in particular at, as depicted here in States
So we're
21B,
following the sound from just above me.
the neck wounds
but
on
they're-
this individual?
They've already got
Yes.
reporters out on
So
the ground
just sort of preliminarily,
showing the
what,
wind
if
and the
anything,
waves
do you notice
as the
about
storm
these
is
neck
moving
wounds?
in.
What could you tell us about the cause or what led to these neck wounds?
So I'll keep an
These
eye on
neck
that.
wounds appear
there we go.
consistent with a
We've
blade
got some
injury
big
or a
waves
sharp
coming in.
instrument.
And so how do
But
you
not-
determine
not,
that? Is
I
there something
think it's
that
gonna
you're
be a Category
seeing? And if
1
I need a different
hurricane.
picture,
Hurricane, is that what
please
they
tell
say?
me. I'm happy to put up a different picture. Is there something you're seeing that says these are blade wounds?
Yes, the edges of the wounds, where they're gaping, you can see the margins of those wounds are smooth. They do not look like tears in the skin or lacerations.
And so I'm going to zoom in then a little bit. I'm going to flip packets. I'm going to move over here to State's Exhibit number 27C instead. These wounds, you believe are, and let me see if this helps. There we go. Maybe that helps a little. These wounds, is there something that you're seeing specifically then? If you need to stand up and point, you're welcome to do so.
There's a yardstick there, Doctor, that you can use as a pointer.
So it looks like the storm is just
Doctor, if you would just stand a little bit to the side there so you're not blocking the front.
is just starting to get closer.
Smooth, relatively smooth. They're
That's
a little
where we're at.
jagged, but they don't look like a blunt injury, like a
So it's headed sort of straight towards
Look like
Tampa.
they're made with some type of a sharp instrument.
All right, so within a reasonable degree of medical certainty, could you tell us that these are
That's your weather
wounds
update.
caused by some sort of sharp object, for example, a knife?
Yes.
You cannot tell us what kind of knife, though, could you?
No.
You couldn't say whether it's a 3-inch knife or an 8-inch knife. You couldn't say whether it's a serrated or a non-serrated knife.
No.
Is it the knife that I'm holding?
Now-
Is this the weapon?
Is it possible that these wounds are inflicted by another person?
Yes.
Is it possible that these wounds are
her
inflicted
breathing on
by
the
the
mic.
person depicted in the photo, meaning they are self-inflicted?
Yes.
And what is it about the photos or about just everyday logical common sense you can use that helps you reach that decision?
These wounds are within reach of the person's hands so that they could have done this themselves. They're also very, I would say, symmetrical. So it's kind of unusual to see
Nico, these are
inflicted wounds be,
these are wounds on him.
perfectly side by side because people are moving. There's a lot of movement going on when someone is in an altercation with someone
Breaking
else.
news out of North Carolina.
So it's hard to
We found the knife.
kind of have one side of the neck get attacked and then the other side of the neck at the same time.
Right, so
So-
even though these wounds are in a place that a person could reach themselves, and even though they're somewhat symmetrical, is there anything that specifically tells you these are or are not self-inflicted?
Just that they are in a place that a person could reach themselves.
But both options are possible. It could be
Of course,
self-inflicted,
yes.
it could be inflicted by another.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Doctor, I want to draw your attention. I'm going to zoom in to State's Exhibit 21B. And beyond what I would describe as the holes or the circles in the neck, I want to direct your attention to these dark lines here on the left side of the photo above the circle, and then on the right circle, there's a line there, and then there's also kind of one down here right at the shirt collar. Are those things of any interest to you?
Have the appearance of incised wounds, meaning they are not very deep. They are on the surface. They could be deeper, because I did not examine this person myself, but they look like a wound that might have been scraped by the tip of a knife or a tip of something sharp.
Okay, and again, I'm just going to swap photos for a second. I'm going to go to 27A. We're looking at it from a slightly different angle, but again, this little mark just above the circle, does that look like another one of those types of wounds?
We'll just have to take his
From
word
this
for it
angle,
because we
yes.
cannot see these.
So I want to ask you about hesitation marks. Are you familiar with that term?
Yes.
Tell us what a hesitation mark is.
In cases where people inflict wounds on themselves with blades, they oftentimes will have these what are called hesitation marks, meaning they're trying it out to see how it feels. Sometimes they stop and choose another area, or they will keep going and go deeper until they successfully kill themselves. So this is commonly seen in suicides or in other types of self-inflicted wounds, say people who practice self-mutilation, where they actually hurt themselves to feel better.
Do these lines or marks on the neck, other than the obvious circles in the neck, the holes in the neck, do they appear consistent to you with hesitation marks?
They are consistent.
I want to show you also
Winds don't look too bad.
this photo.
25 miles per hour, gusting to
State's
36.
Exhibit 27D. You saw this photo?
Yes, I did.
All right, I'm going to orient it this way just so it's going up the arm. And what, if anything, do you notice about these injuries?
These injuries also look consistent with incised wounds or shallow wounds made with the sharp tip of something.
And again, can you say with any certainty that the tip would be a knife specifically?
I can't say with certainty, but it's something sharp.
If I had like a really sharp end of a screwdriver, I could, for example, do this as well potentially?
Sure, if it's really sharp.
All right, and so there appears to be multiple of them. Does this look like more than one attempt to cause this injury?
Yes.
And I want to draw your attention to sort of the middle of the forearm, right there. There appears to be a spot where the wound sort of widens.
Yes,
Is there anything
Shauna.
about that that is of interest to
This
you?
is the only time the weather
Just that
person
it's
really gets
probably
to,
slightly deeper, that's about all I
you know,
can
be
say
the
from
star.
looking at the picture.
So yeah, they act up when it's a storm like this. 2 cents. Love that. He survived.
If a person was being attacked by someone with a sharp object, for example, a knife, would you normally expect to see the wounds all so closely aligned and parallel to each other?
No, that's not what we usually see.
Let me ask you a different question. I know many people, just sort of in everyday world, they do this motion where they're talking
A different
about a person
question as
committing
opposed to the
suicide.
same
They sort of
question we've been
drag
asking over and over.
the pretend knife across their wrist like this,
Yes.
instead of down their arm. Can you explain what the difference may be between dragging a knife across your wrist instead of down your arm when attempting to commit suicide?
Objection, relevance?
Overrule LLI.
She objected to relevance, and it was allowed.
I guess let's back up a second. Would a person who wants to commit suicide, have you ever seen a person try to commit suicide or actually commit suicide by slicing their arm?
Yes, many times.
She's seen
and
somebody
so,
do this?
Is there any
Or she's
medical difference between slicing
medically examined someone
down
afterwards.
the arm, like up and down the forearm, as opposed to across the forearm or across the wrist?
It tends to be more effective when it's vertical because you get more of the vein or the artery, but I've seen it done both ways.
So this is still potentially a way by which a person might try to commit suicide by going up and down the forearm
Yes.
instead of across the wrist.
Yes.
Now, doctor, as it's all here in front of you in color in the pictures, can we agree you cannot say with any medical certainty whether or not any of these wounds are self-inflicted or inflicted by another?
I cannot say that.
And you cannot say in any medical certainty whether or not, if they were self-inflicted, they were done in the attempt to commit suicide.
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
I mean, could you say, since you don't know if they're self-inflicted or not, you don't know if they were done in an attempt to commit suicide?
That's right.
If, however, you were provided some sort of statement by the person admitting or stating they were trying to kill themselves, would that impact your evaluation and ultimate opinion as to whether or not these are self-inflicted wounds?
Yes.
I want to ask you about some other wounds that you've not looked at, but you don't need to look at the actual picture.
I'll be right back.
imagine we can
I just
talk
have to
about
grab a
them,
cable that I can't reach from where I'm at.
in general. Do you ever see people who suffer injuries to their hands from a sharp object such as a knife?
Yes.
Do you sometimes conclude that those injuries are offensive wounds, meaning they occur while the person is stabbing someone else or cutting someone else with a knife?
Yes.
Do you ever see wounds that are defensive, meaning, for example, the victim is putting their hands up to defend themselves and now they're being stabbed or cut with a knife?
Yes.
Both of those things are possible.
Absolutely.
Can you explain how a person might get offensive wounds on their hands if they were using or holding a knife?
Well, the knife, once the knife has been used enough times to draw blood, then the blood gets on the knife, it gets very slippery. So the knife can be dropped, you have to pick it up, you could cut yourself picking it up. The person who's warding off the knife could push it at the person and cut their hands. The knife could slip out between the thumb and forefinger and cut through here, through this area of your hand.
All right, and so are there places that you would traditionally expect to see incised wounds or cut wounds on a hand if you are exploring the possibility of it being an offensive wound?
Yes.
Would you expect it, for example, to be on the outside of the hand?
It could be on the outside.
Could it be potentially on the palm?
Potentially, yes.
Is there a particular orientation you would expect it to go, though?
Just in regards to where the blade is in space.
Okay,
And
so
you're just trying to either ward it off or,
I'm going to use a ruler. This is not dangerous. I'm going to use a ruler. Certainly one way you could hold it is sort of like this, thumb pointed outward, just sort of.
He learned from
frontward
the
stab
Dean
motion.
Cummings trial.
Another
We're not
option
going to
is
use an
to
actual
hold a
weapon
knife
in the
like
courtroom.
this, like thumb pointed away from the target, and now you're sort of stabbing down. Those are certainly pretty common ways to hold a knife, correct?
yes.
All right. And so if I had a knife, and the knife was like sort of a kitchen knife, like a normal steak knife, something of that sort, where the blade is only sharp on one side, and I stab someone overhand like this, where would you expect the injury to the hand to be?
For the person who's holding the knife?
Yes.
Like it could slide down, your hand could slide down that knife and cut the palm.
So if I was holding it like this, my hand would slide, and if this is the sharp side, it's going to cut my palm.
Yes.
These are questions we
Okay.
need to answer,
If I'm holding
Chandra.
it the other way, like this, and now I stab, and again, the sharp side is down here, where do you expect the injury to be?
On the fingers.
And would you expect the fingers to be cut basically across the fingers?
Yes.
Would you expect them to be cut up and down, basically going from like the base of the palm, the part where the finger and the palm meet all the way to the tip of the finger?
It could be like that, yeah. Depends on how it's in the hand.
Do you typically see people with offensive, or what you think are offensive wounds to their hands on both hands?
Sometimes, but that's not common.
I mean, typically people are either left-handed or right-hand dominant.
Right, yeah.
I want to ask you about a different topic, something we haven't talked about yet. I assume you're familiar with the functioning of a heart.
Yes.
What's an artery,
Vaguely.
and how's that different from a vein?
An artery is under high pressure, so the main artery in the body is the aorta. And so when the heart contracts, the blood goes under high pressure through the aorta, and then it branches out to all parts of the body. So if an artery is cut, you're going to have high pressure spraying of blood coming out of the body.
And so
There's an image for
where
us.
in the body is a thing called the carotid artery.
The carotid artery, if you feel your voice box here, the carotid arteries are deep to the back side near your spine. It's a protected area. It's very deep.
All right, and so am I correct then that basically every person has a heart, their heart is, we call it pumping.
These are
or
basics we need to
beating,
cover.
But really it's constricting. It's
Does everyone have a heart?
Yes, it's squeezing.
And when it squeezes, it's shooting blood up an artery, for example.
Yes,
And the carotid artery runs up the neck, I guess, towards the brain.
towards the brain.
So, hypothetically, if a person were to have their throat cut, their neck cut, deep enough to sever their carotid artery, you describe what is called, I think, spurting or squirting.
Yes,
That meaning like literally blood would shoot out of the neck?
yes, like it's under high pressure. When you squeeze a hose real tight and the water comes out a lot faster when you squeeze it, as opposed to just letting it run out.
And so, does the heart constrict and then relax, constrict and then relax?
Yes,
So, if you were watching blood spurt out of a person, would you see it first shoot up and then sort of trail off, shoot up and then sort of trail off?
yes.
I don't know why you'd want to sit there and watch that, but yes,
Doctor, I
that's
want
how
to
it
ask you a
works.
different question. Can we agree this is a standard ruler? Okay. Doctor,
The court has established that that ruler is 12
I think
inches
I did well
long.
enough in school, but can we agree that this is the 3-inch mark on the ruler?
Yes,
All right, if I have a 3-inch blade of some sort, steak knife, dinner knife, whatever, and I have a 3-inch blade, can a 3-inch blade penetrate deep enough into a person's neck to reach their carotid artery?
yes,
Can a 3-inch blade penetrate deep enough into a person's neck to sever their jugular vein?
yes,
Could a 3-inch blade penetrate deep enough into a person's neck to cut their larynx, or what most people call their voice box?
yes.
This looks like a relatively small knife, all given circumstances, but is this a deadly knife potentially in the hands of the right person?
Yes.
How many other questions, Judge? Thank you.
Cross-examination.
They got some good points in on that one. But I don't think the defense is really going to ask many questions about this. Their whole defense is it wasn't him.
Morning, Dr. Beavers.
Good morning.
30 seconds. For 30 more seconds, it's morning.
Judge, just keep an eye on that clock. His Uber Eats delivery is coming promptly at noon.
Admitted as States Exhibit 27A. If you need to get closer, feel free. Can you see that there's blood in Matthew Terry's nose?
Yes, it looks like there's some.
Is it common for a person's nose to bleed when they've been punched?
Yes.
So he was the victim. We mistakenly thought it was the dead person.
Putting up what is already admitted as States Exhibit 27B, is that one of the wounds on the side of Matthew Terry's neck?
That's one of the photos that I looked at. Yes.
Showing you what's
I don't
already
blame
been
the judge.
admitted as States Exhibit 27C. I can't tell from the positioning, so can you tell me if that is the same wound or the other wound as the one we just looked at in 27B?
Well, you can see the oxygen cannula, and to the right of that would be the wound, because that's the bottom of the cannula.
So is that the same one as in the previous photo, or?
Looked at before.
Okay, so this is the second one.
So, Tiffany,
And
I
in
don't know how they're
addition
going to
to
get over
those
the fact
wounds that
that
are on each
the jury's
side of
going to
his
hear
neck,
that he stabbed a
You were
previous
also
girlfriend
shown
as well.
photographs of,
So-
which right now is admitted as 27D for the state, some marks on Matthew Terry's arm.
Yes.
Those marks there, I know you indicated you can't tell what type of knife caused it, but can you tell even if it was a knife that caused it?
It's just something sharp.
Sure. So could have been even, let's say, some really sharp thorns in an area where someone was being on the ground attacked.
Yes, if those thorns had little parallel, they were arranged in a parallel manner or something close to that. Sure.
So the neck wounds were from
And I
the
know
bushes.
that you said you had
Is that what
never
we're getting at?
gotten to see Matthew Terry in person.
No.
At the time, would you have been able to make more definitive conclusions?
Yes, like say the doctor who examined him would be.
Sure, always better to see somebody in person, right?
Of course.
Okay. And you indicated, of course, that you really can't say if it was self-inflicted. It's equally possible that it was inflicted by another person, right?
It's possible, yes.
Okay.
Hey, Chandra, his present acts
In
were
regard
enough to get him. You didn't need to go into the
last few
past.
questions the state asked you about could a 3-inch blade cause that. A blade could also go in just partially to a wound, right?
Sure, just like an incise wound, or it just scrapes the surface.
So Matthew Terry's wounds could have been caused by a large knife, a small knife. We really have no idea.
We have no idea.
Could I just have a moment, Your Honor?
She gets lots of moments. So she's going through these witnesses very fast. She really thinks she can get through 9. She's like, yeah, we'll fly through them. It's just how long the state's going to drag information out of them.
Read right.
Yep, she's
Doctor,
done.
Do you have to be like Mike Tyson to punch a nose to make it bleed?
No.
I mean, could a relatively small person still punch another person in the nose and cause their nose to bleed?
Yes.
All right, and I don't think you really have to be a doctor, but I'm going to ask you because you are a doctor. When a nose starts to bleed, does a nose drip?
Yes, it drips.
And does blood obey the laws of gravity that if I'm standing upright and my nose is bleeding, the blood is going to drop to the ground?
Yes.
Thank you, doctor.
May this witness be released
Yes, Your Honor.
and by the defense released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you,
Yes,
Dr.
so
You may
she's
sit
done.
down. You may be released as a witness at this
So
time.
we're almost getting ready to play Teal. I'll tell you the names of the Teal songs we have. We have Upsetter on Bank 2.
Promise, ladies
and
gentlemen, it is lunchtime. My regular
Cats
announcements
Searching
regarding the break,
on Bank
not to
1.
Discuss this case amongst yourselves with anyone else. Also, not to do any research related to this case. I do have an announcement. It's an announcement that just came up during the course of that witness, so I have not even told the attorneys yet, and I will be discussing with them during the lunch break. But tomorrow is canceled. The courthouse is closed.
The whole day is canceled.
If you're happy about that, then I'll
We're gonna
take
go
full
straight to Friday.
responsibility for that decision. If you're unhappy about that, that decision was made by authorities above my head. So do with that as you wish, but know that you will not be coming.
And it looks like they canceled today too. Everything just stopped. Okay, so tomorrow's canceled. We're going to get the details. We're going to play this audio right here because we can. I don't know why it's called cat searching. But this is Teal on Bank One. Somebody broke the internet. Friday is Veterans Day. It's going to be a short week. Are we going to take Veterans Day off? I think we all get Veterans Day off, right? It's like a little mandolin in there too. Okay, so we got the camera back. Jury's leaving the courtroom.
Emails since it was officially announced a little while ago. But Mr. Diaz,
Yes, Your Honor.
I think that affects.
Yes, Your Honor. I will replan accordingly.
All right.
I anticipate that I will be calling witnesses on Monday morning.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I know that at one point you had indicated that you expected the state to rest today. I never thought that was a possibility, but I did expect you to rest tomorrow. And,
Yeah, I even without the Williams rule, I expected to have DNA and blood pattern evidence tomorrow. So
That's gonna be fun.
There's no way we're going to rest.
all right. Well, that means, and again, I don't wish to know from the defense whether you intend to call any witnesses. We won't know until I have a discussion with Mr. Terry whether he intends to testify. But the defense case will not begin until
Like
do you
Tuesday,
think you'll
Monday,
rest?
Tuesday.
I believe I will get through all of my witnesses.
But not early Monday.
I would hope before lunch. Again, I don't know how far we're going to get through today.
And I am willing, you all can make arrangements too. I'm willing to go late tonight. The jury all seemed to be affirmative when I mentioned that.
I have the possibility of 4 more witnesses for this afternoon, and then I won't be ready for anything more than the remaining 4.
So your afternoon is?
It would be Watson, Ratu, Durr, and Douglas.
So then we break for the day, and then everything you have left comes up on Monday. So
Oh,
you
I'm
can-
sorry, and Dr. Mendoza.
So 5.
5, sorry.
Let's do those 5, however long it takes.
And we're going to put Dr.
within
Mendoza on.
reason,
We're going to put Dr. Mendoza on right after lunch.
The poll is up.
on 1:30, and let's see how it goes. But let's try to get those 5 done. Now, after we get those 5 done, what does that leave you on Monday?
Anna Cox, Alyssa Troutman DNA, and the Williams rule evidence.
All right.
So Monday we're going to find out his
Done
priors.
by lunch?
I do.
All right. But that puts you in at least an idea. You know you're not going to be in a position until at least Monday afternoon at the earliest to begin a defense case. We'll just see how it goes. We cleared them through Friday the 18th, but perhaps if we do go into, I don't want to go into Thanksgiving week, but if we do have to because of the hurricane, or Nicole, then I can always ask them at some point if it appears. I'm not going to even, guess now, but we'll see where we are next week. Unless you want to say something. If you want to give me a heads up on anything,
No, we'll address it as we go, but there are probably going to be scheduling conflicts that would prevent that, at least attorney-wise, from going into Thanksgiving week.
So what would you suggest would happen if we have 1 day left into Thanksgiving week and there's attorney conflict?
We're going to finish next week.
Okay, all right. All right, I appreciate that. I agree with you. I agree, absolutely. We're going to finish next week. I love the optimism.
I do too.
Okay, well, I thought you were going to rest on Wednesday.
I want
Don't
to
say you never said that.
I know I said it.
Okay.
I don't pretend I didn't.
All right, anything else?
Not from the defense.
Anything from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, well, have a nice lunch. You end up for a little bit extra time. 1:30, we'll come back in and we'll begin. Thank you all.
1:30. That gives us an hour and 20 minutes, and we'll be back then. So Good. Okay, good news and bad news, right? We do have the poll up right now for guilty or not guilty. Heather, if you can see that up there. We're just taking a quick poll right now with what information you've seen already as members of the jury here in this court of public opinion. Are you ready to cast your ballot one way or another? I did not put a hung jury on there. I'm actually polling you individually. I'll determine if the jury is hung based on your voting. Matthew Harris, are you hiring? We might all be down. I always vote not guilty until evidence is complete, so keep that in mind. So we have a holdout already, and it's the lawyer among us who's not ready to convict. Let's see. That was great fun. Thanks, everyone. Nico, thanks for being here. It's a good group. We'll be back. We're going to take a break here at lunch. We're just going to talk for just a wee bit. I'm going to play the other Teal song, which was Upsetter. Let's see. Yes, he's a serial stabber, and we're going to hear about that on Monday. We'll have the victim that he stabbed, his former girlfriend, who survived, as well as the lead investigator, I believe, on that case. So we'll have two people testifying to his propensity to use knives in arguments. But yeah, that'll be exciting. So Golden Mom says maybe I'll go to court Monday and live tweet. That would be awesome. I would love it. I'd love it if we could see you in court. What's the process? Are they drawing? Is like standby tickets? It didn't look like the courtroom was full, which is surprising. But I have to correct myself. I said it was hurricane. It looks like it's still a tropical storm. We've got 70-mile-per-hour winds. I think it has to be like 75 to be a hurricane, Cat 1. Tiffany, you're right. That the whole courtroom just it's comfy. I like the decorations, the looks, the camera angles. The sound is pretty good. Could be better, but I'm picky in that area. Let's get a little music going here. This is what you missed out on. Toxic Orchid. It's going to be on Discord. Thanks for sharing that Discord. Those of you that saw that, he put an open invite out to his page where he discusses true crime. We're going to take a look at that. Maybe he can teach me a thing or two about Discord, so maybe we can open up our own Discord for us. Prayers for Florida for sure. Hope they stay safe and dry. And it's just heartbreaking to have somebody who's lost so much then get pounded with another storm before they can even rebuild. Joe Allen says, my guy upset the House of Representatives. Yay. Sounds like your guy that you voted for won. Josh says, wait, can I revote? No, I'm going to actually end the poll right here. Let's see where we're at here. Let's see. Matthew Terry, guilty 89%, not guilty 10%. We had 68 votes. So not enough to convict. We did have some holdouts waiting for more evidence. They might be swayed come the end of the evidentiary period of trial. Don't live tweet until recess. They will kick you out. Follow the rules of the court. If you do want to call and leave a message during the break, write down that number real quickly that's on your screen right now. That is the Recovery Addict Hotline burner phone. You can call it 24 hours a day. It goes straight to voicemail. You can leave a text. You can send a text message. You can send a picture if you want. Leave a voice message, all those things. And then if it's appropriate to be shared on the air, we just might do that. There's tons on the Tox's Discord already. We're swamping your server. Will you be on the morning with no court? Let's be on in the morning just so we can catch up with whatever happened today. It'll be just a short, friendly live stream. We might pop in on some of the other stuff that's happening. There are some other trials we can update ourselves on a little bit. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a break. We have till 1:30, which is 75 minutes, right? Let me hurry and get my timer going here so I can track it. Scroll, yada, yada, yada. 75 minutes, done, and start. Okay, so timer's going. See you at 1:30. You guys are the best. Okay, yeah, only 2 more for 100 likes. You guys, we passed 100. We're at 101. Thank you very much. And Toxic, see if I can post that without clicking it up myself. This is the link that Toxic shared. His Discord is a true crime Discord. It's just another place we can connect and talk a little bit in a format that's a little different than YouTube chat, maybe a little more open. We'll obviously follow Toxic's rules there on that for that. But Paula, glad we were able to help you get your room painted. Swamp Way folks, I'm wanting chat and people to use it and enjoy it. Well, thank you. Appreciate you you putting that up and building that for us. We'll get to say hi there here in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go make my sandwich because my sandwich has not made itself. I think the family's all busy, so I'm not faulting them at all. Anyway, great. We have to have one more song. And I'm going to choose this on the way out. Right? Let's do this one right here. Debbie says we'll be back an hour earlier than Recovery Addicts. We're going to be back in probably about an hour is when we're going to come back. 15 minutes before court returns or the jury returns. It'll give us time to get up to speed, check the weather really quickly, make sure Florida's not getting wiped off the map by this second storm. Hope everyone has a lawful law day. A lawful law. That's another shirt in the making right there. Time difference, says Debbie. Okay. Ashley, we'll miss the start as well. We'll miss you at the start, but hopefully you can join us later. Appreciate you guys being here. You guys are all amazing. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let you guys get some food. I'm going to get some food, take a break, relax a little bit, and then come back for more of the same. That's a lot of timers on my screen. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. See you in a little bit.